Chapter 116. The more Su Lingyun thought about it, the more she felt that her son's words made sense. Others might not be clear about her family's affairs, but Su Shangwen was very clear about it. Even if the business of her family's restaurant was good recently, it was still just a restaurant after all. Saying that it was a restaurant was just a nice thing to say. But to put it bluntly, it was just a small restaurant. How much money could it earn? With such a big business, would he really be short of money? After thinking about it, Su Lingyun firmly nodded and said, "Son, studying is really good. Your mom hasn't read many books, and her cultural level is not as good as yours. What you said makes sense. It seems that Su Shangwen didn't come to our restaurant to borrow money, but to humiliate me. Don't worry. I'll never lend him a penny in the future." Tan Xiao gave a thumbs up and praised. "Mom, your awareness is really high. I was really afraid that you couldn't figure it out, so I was going to spend more time talking to you. Your mom is the kind of person who doesn't understand things, huh?" Su Lingyun smilingly scolded. "No, absolutely not," said Tan Xiao with a smile. "If anyone dares to say that, I'll beat him to the point that he has to look for it all over the floor. Then, do you still want to settle the account?" Su Lingyun shook her head and said, "Since I've already figured it out, why would I still settle the account? Son, you just came back, right? Are you hungry? Mom will personally go to the kitchen to cook something delicious for you. The food outside is not as good as the one at home." "I also have the same feeling. No one in the world can cook better than my mom," Tan Xiao said with a smile. "You're talking nonsense." Hearing Tan Xiao's words, Su Lingyun was overjoyed, and her smile became more and more brilliant. Soon after, dishes and a soup were brought to a private room. Tan Xiao called Su Lingyun to accompany him to eat. The mother and daughter chatted for a while before Tan Xiao was ready to leave. Bang bang. Someone knocked on the door, and then Nail pushed the door open. After greeting Tan Xiao, he whispered, "Big boss, Su Shangwen's son is here. He's wandering in our hall." Su Lingyun asked in confusion, "What is he doing here?" Su Lingyun did not have the slightest favorable impression of her nephew. If he hadn't framed his son and accused him of stealing 3,000 yuan from his family, she wouldn't have been humiliated in public, and even caused her son to be injured. Tan Xiao stood up and lightly said, "I'll go out and take a look." Su Lingyun quickly said, "Son, although I don't like Su Xiangfei, don't go overboard. Speaking of which, he is after all." Tan Xiao interrupted his mother and said in a deep voice, "I know what you want to say, Mom. I can let him go, but our restaurant doesn't welcome him. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing." Su Lingyun nodded, but she was still a bit worried. She followed Tan Xiao out of the private room. After coming out of the private room, Tan Xiao saw Su Xiangfei chatting with a waiter. He strode to the front of Su Xiangfei and said in a deep voice, "What are you doing here?" Upon seeing Tan Xiao, Su Xiangfei was surprised and said, "Cousin, aren't you?" "Shut up." Tan Xiao interrupted Su Xiangfei and said in a deep voice, "Don't call me so intimately, Su Xiangfei. I don't deserve it. Also, our restaurant doesn't welcome you. Have you forgotten what I said? If you dare to come here, I'll beat you up every time I see you." Su Xiangfei shrunk his neck. Although he was full of resentment toward Tan Xiao, he recalled what his father had told him. He immediately squeezed out a smile and said, "Don't be like this, cousin. We're family and quarreling is our own business. I was indeed in the wrong before, but you've always been a magnanimous person, so don't bother about the past with me." Tan Xiao sneered and said, "Don't put it in such a nice way. Your family is your family and mine is mine. I can't afford to climb up to you. Now get the hell out of here, or else I'll have someone beat you out." Immediately, Dingzi and the others aggressively surrounded Su Xiangfei, looking like they would beat Su Xiangfei as soon as Tan Xiao gave the order. Su Xiangfei's expression turned extremely unsightly. He looked at Dingzi and the others, and then looked at Tan Xiao's frosty face. Finally, he was scared and retreated a few steps back. However, when he saw Su Lingyun, he quickly shouted, "Auntie, I'm your nephew. You won't drive me away, will you? I know it was my fault before, but I won't do it again." Su Lingyun's heart softened. Upon hearing Su Xiangfei's words, she suddenly looked hesitant. Tan Xiao shouted with a deep voice, "Dingzi, you guys beat him out for me. Remember, as long as you don't beat him to death, I'll take responsibility for breaking his arms and legs. All right. Dingzi and the others rolled up their sleeves and were ready to take action. Su Xiangfei's pupil shrunk. Without waiting for Su Lingyun's answer, he turned around and rushed out of the restaurant. Last time, he was injured by thugs at school and had to be treated in the hospital for several days before being discharged. He didn't want to spend the rest of his days in the hospital bed. Ha ha ha. Everyone looked at Su Xiangfei's fleeing back and suddenly burst into laughter. Several waiters who knew Su Xiangfei's family's moral conduct gathered together and ridiculed him. Su Shangwen is not a good guy, and his son is a coward. Our little boss is just scaring him. I never thought he would be so easily frightened. Alas! How could our boss have such a nephew? What a disgrace. A handsome young man turned out to be a coward. I really don't know if his head was squeezed by the door or something. He clearly knows that he won't be treated well here, but he still wants to be slapped in the face. Even if he doesn't feel ashamed, I feel ashamed for him. Our little boss is really amazing. He scared that guy away with just a few words. Our boss is too soft-hearted and can't bear to hear others begging for mercy. If you ask me, our little boss did the right thing. You shouldn't give a good face to such a rotten person. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked. That guy is really Su Shangwen's son. Tan Xiao turned his head to look at Su Lingyun, and found that his mother's face didn't look very good. He then waved his hand to the nearby waiters, indicating that they should not join in the fun and go do something else. Mom, we live our life, and Su Shangwen's family live their life. If we get entangled too much, there will always be all kinds of messy and troublesome things. So you don't take them seriously in the future. If they are harboring evil intentions, they will cause big trouble sooner or later. Moreover, that kind of trouble is not something you can help even if you want to. Su Lingyun sighed deeply and said with a wry smile, "How could I not understand what you said? But forget it. We can't afford to provoke them, but we can hide from them. If they come again, I won't give them a good face." Tan Xiao nodded. Before he left, he specifically called Bans Ho and Dingzi to the side, and told them to protect his mother. If anyone from the Su family came again to cause trouble, they should directly report to him. In the evening, on the way back to Southgate Town, Tan Xiao received a call from Yuan Chuling. When he learned that Tan Xiao had returned from Jingmen Island, he immediately wanted to see Tan Xiao. However, he was still at the university and couldn't easily leave. Therefore, Tan Xiao told him that he would go to school the day after tomorrow at the latest. Tan Xiao could ignore others, but he couldn't ignore Yuan Chuling. After all, Yuan Chuling regarded him as an iron brother, a good brother. Moreover, Yuan Chuling had helped him countless times. This kindness made Tan Xiao feel grateful. In fact, after returning to Earth, Tan Xiao had been avoiding the matter of making friends. Being betrayed by a close friend made him wary of everyone. Having few friends was nothing to be afraid of, but he was afraid that many of them would be scheming against him in their hearts. Tan Xiao didn't want to let the past repeat the same mistakes, nor would he let the past repeat the same mistakes. After returning to Southgate Town, Tan Xiao learned from Mu Qingping that the medicinal herbs he mailed from Jingmen Island had been received and put into the warehouse. Just as he was preparing to concoct the Golden Bell liquid, Mu Qingping came to him again, and said that a guest had come to visit. What guest? Tan Xiao stayed in the warehouse and asked in puzzlement. He didn't have many friends, and only a few people knew that he lived in Southgate Town. He couldn't figure out who would come to visit. He said his name is Long Jingyu. Mu Qingping said. Tan Xiao frowned. He didn't expect that Long Jingyu would come here in person. This was the first time he came here after he gave the house to him. After thinking about it, he left the warehouse and came to the villa's hall. He saw Long Jingyu sitting on the sofa and drinking tea. Why are you here? Tan Xiao walked to the opposite side of Long Jingyu and sat down. Long Jingyu said with a smile, I heard you came back, so I came to have a chat with you. How are you? Are you used to living here? Not bad. Tan Xiao said lightly. Not bad. Long Jingyu secretly smiled wryly inside. If others were to get such a king's villa, they would have long laughed their teeth off. But when it came to Tan Xiao, It turned out to be not bad. Brother Tang, there's something I want to talk to you about this time. Tan Xiu said. If you have something to say, just say it. I have something to do later, so I don't have much time. Long Jingyu nodded and said, thanks to you, I don't know where Kongxia heard about me. So when she couldn't find you, she contacted me many times. I didn't expect that you would really take Kongxia as your subordinate. Last night, my dad looked for me and talked a lot. He wanted me to ask you if my Long family can give us a large sum of money so that we can have more shares. Impossible. Tan Xiu directly shook his head and said. Long Jingyu rolled his eyes and snappily said, I knew it would be like this. Since you don't want to, then forget it. Are you done? Tan Xiu said. If so, I won't keep you any longer. Long Jingyu quickly said, please don't mind me. I haven't entered the main topic yet. As a matter of fact, the main purpose of me looking for you today is to cooperate with you. I recently developed a new project. As long as you can help me draw a design, I'll give you 10% of the shares. How about it? Tan Xiu raised his brows and asked, what project is it? Quiet Night has never worked so hard before. Although it's very hard and tiring, Quiet Night feels that it's all worth it when he thinks about the support of so many brothers and sisters. I've been working hard for 2 consecutive days, so I ask all the brothers and sisters to throw their monthly tickets to Quiet Night. Chapter 117. Tan Xiu had never refused a business deal that could bring him money. In this era of material desires, money was the yardstick to measure success and failure. He knew the importance of money too well. Money could travel anywhere in the world, but without it, it would be difficult to move a single step. For the sake of cultivation and materials, Tan Xiu had to think about how to make a fortune, even if he was tied to the university. Zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. He had been in the immortal world for thousands of years, and could be said to be proficient in everything. Drawing a building design was a piece of cake for him. He was confident that the design he drew would definitely become a landmark building in this world. It would make everyone's eyes light up. A strange light flashed in Long Jingyu's eyes as he slowly said, I have 2 friends from the capital. They are preparing to build a skyscraper in Star City. They want the most majestic, unique, and iconic building. Our Long family has decided to cooperate with them. The total investment from the 3 parties is 5 billion yuan. Of course, we'll consider adding more funds if there is a problem in the future. As for the 10% shares, it won't change even if we add more funds in the future. 5 billion? Tan Xiu was tongue-tied as he looked at Long Jingyu's serious expression. It took him a long time to come back to his senses. He wasn't shocked by the 5 billion yuan investment, but the 10% shares that caught him off guard. Those shares were equivalent to being given away for free. Tan Xiu came back to his senses, and was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he said, using 500 million to buy a design? Do you have money to burn? Long Jingyu said with a smile, 500 million to buy a design may be a fantasy story. But I think it's worth it, and they will also feel that it's worth it. You must know that 500 million is not only buying a design, but also buying a friendship that will tie you to our chariot. Those 2 friends heard about you from me, and they really want to make friends with you. Friends? Tan Xiu snorted inwardly, but on the surface he maintained his composure and said, Are they so confident that they can be friends with me? Long Jingyu said with a smile, There's a saying that the heavens will not disappoint those who are willing. Whether we can be friends or not depends on our future interactions. Now you just need to answer me. Are you willing to accept this deal? Yes, why wouldn't I? Tang Xiu raised his brows and spoke with a tone of affirmation. Long Jingyu took out a cigarette and was about to light it when he suddenly sensed something. He looked at Tan Xiu and asked, You don't mind, do you? Tan Xiu shook his head and said, When do I need to give you the architectural design? Long Jingyu said, There's no hurry for the time being. The initial stage of the project requires 2 months of preparation. In a few days we will enclose the land, and I will take you there to have a look. Then you can start drawing the design. Brother Tang, your mission is the key, don't let me down. I won't let you down, Tan Xiu said lightly. Since he was paid, he had to work for them. For someone like Tang Xiu who pursued perfection, he would naturally try his best to design a qualified architectural design draft. However, he was also thinking about another issue, the replanning of Nine Dragons Island. In his opinion, the foreign tycoon's transformation of Nine Dragons Island was flawed. Most importantly, the 9 spiritual veins were not properly utilized. Nine Dragons Island was a treasured land with good feng shui, and he would never recklessly waste it. Long Zhengyu recalled the design drawing drawn by Tan Xiu for Walled Hill Village, and the worry in his heart vanished in an instant. Since Tang Xiu dared to accept this business deal, he believed that he would be able to satisfy him. Even those two fellows would be shocked when the time came. "I'm at ease with you handling it," Long Zhengyu affirmed. "Is there anything else?" Tan Xiu asked. Long Zhengyu forced a smile and said, "Brother Tang, you're asking me to leave. All right, I won't bother you anymore since you have other things to do. Just wait for my news. I'll contact you once the land is delineated." "All right." Tan Xiu nodded. After sending Long Zhengyu away, Tan Xiu went into the warehouse. He was eager to concoct the Golden Bell liquid and strive to improve his cultivation. This time, he had prepared sufficient materials. Whether it was the fierce beast's bones or the purchased medicinal herbs, he could try it more than a dozen times. Inside the warehouse, Tan Xiu came to the iron pot, poured half a pot of water, and began to boil the water. The concoction of the Golden Bell liquid required a lot of boiling water. When the water was boiling, he put the fierce beast's bones, teeth, tendons, and other materials into the water in order. When the water in the pot was nearly half boiled, he put several medicinal herbs into the iron pot. The fierce beast's bones were several times harder than those of ordinary wild beasts. It was reasonable to say that it would be very difficult to melt them in boiling water. However, the medicinal herbs Tang Xiu added had a very strong corrosive effect. He was a bit regretful that he had used up the poisonous demon rot tan he got last time, otherwise the effect would be better. Add water. Half an hour later, only about 2 bowls of water were left in the half pot, and the color of the liquid had turned bright red. As Tan Xiu poured the water, he began to crush the green jade essence into powder. When the liquid boiled again, he sprinkled the green jade essence into it. This time, without the stirring of the poisonous demon rot tan, Tan Xiu had already prepared a clean steel pipe. When he stirred the liquid, he put the remaining medicinal herbs into the iron pot in order. The color of the bright red liquid gradually began to change into an azure liquid with the addition of concentrated medicinal herbs. Time passed again. When there were only about 2 bowls of the azure liquid left, Tan Xiu's face showed a satisfied smile. He didn't expect that the first concoction of the Golden Bell liquid would be so smooth. As long as he was careful, he could succeed in one try. He took out the 500-year-old ginseng, broke it, and put it into the pot. When there was only about 1 bowl of the azure liquid left, he put the remaining half of the ginseng into it again. The rich medicinal fragrance permeated the entire warehouse. Because of the addition of the ginseng, the color of the liquid changed from blue to gold again. Specks of golden light sparkled in the medicinal liquid like they were alive, moving and mysterious. "It's done." Tan Xiu's eyes lit up, his heartbeat accelerated, and his eyes burst with ecstasy. When there was only half a bowl of the Golden Bell liquid left in the pot, Tan Xiu did not hesitate to take off all his clothes. He carefully scooped half a spoonful and poured it into his palm. Hiss! The hot golden liquid scalded Tan Xiu's skin. Fortunately, Tan Xiu's strong willpower was able to bear the high temperature and did not spill it out. Only by experiencing the bitterness can one become a superior person. Tan Xiu's eyes flashed with madness, and then he did not hesitate to apply the Golden Bell liquid in his palm to his body. The burning sensation made him suck in a breath of cold air, but he kept increasing the speed of his application. From his wrist, to his arm, then to his shoulder, neck, waist, legs, feet. The Golden Bell liquid was constantly consumed, and the area of application on Tan Xiu's body was constantly increasing. When the Golden Bell liquid was about to be used up, Tan Xiu's whole body had been smeared. At this moment, if an outsider saw Tan Xiu, he would definitely cover his mouth with a fearful expression on his face. His entire body was crimson, like a cooked shrimp. His skin was broken and his flesh was rotten. He was trembling violently, and every tendon of his body was bulging. The cold water in his body drilled out from the pores that had long been invisible, mixed with blood, and looked particularly terrible. There are 2 spoonfuls left. Tan Xiu was cruel to others, but he was even more cruel to himself. He took out 2 spoonfuls of the golden bell liquid, and smeared it on the 2 most vulnerable parts of his body, which were his lower body and neck. Roar! The heart-wrenching pain made Tan Xiu's eyes become blood-red. The second time he smeared the golden bell liquid, the pain was like adding oil to the fire, multiplying exponentially. Creak! The door of the storeroom was pushed open. Mu Qingping, wearing an apron, was holding a bowl of supper in her hand. When she stepped into the storeroom and saw Tan Xiu's appearance, her pupils violently contracted, her body trembled a bit, and the porcelain bowl in her hand fell to the ground, smashing into pieces. If she had not recognized Tan Xiu, perhaps she would have already turned around and ran away. At this moment, although Tan Xiu was naked, and even his lower body was as hard as iron, appearing magnificent and huge, Mu Qingping did not have the slightest embarrassment and shame. Her heartbeat accelerated because of Tan Xiu's miserable appearance. She had never seen a person who could be miserable and terrifying to such an extent. Tan Xiu did not notice the arrival of Mu Qingping. He did not even hear the sound of the porcelain bowl being smashed. His mind was completely focused on his own body, while enduring the burning pain. According to the cultivation route of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, he crazily revolved the star force in his body. The energy contained in the golden bell liquid was like a tide washing Tan Xiu's body, and the star force revolved in his meridians, in coordination with the energy of the golden bell liquid. Wave after wave rushed to the surface of his body. The star force and the energy gradually fused, forming a special energy body. This energy body, in the cultivation state of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, nourished and repaired Tan Xiu's badly mutilated body. Gradually, the blood and cold water solidified, forming a blood scab. In the invisible skin layer, the newly formed energy, in the process of repair and nourishment, was torn again and again, refined again and again. As the saying goes, thousands of times of tempering, a divine weapon will be forged. Tan Xiu's skin layer was like a divine weapon that had been tempered thousands of times. Every time it was torn, it was repaired. Every time new energy surged, the flexibility and firmness of the skin were enhanced and transformed. In the skin layer, it was cut open layer by layer. But the surging of the new energy filled the empty place, as if the new energy was a part of Tan Xiu's body. From the outside, Tan Xiu's body has been wrapped in a thick blood scab, like a heavy cocoon. Mu Qingping stood like a sculpture in the warehouse door, her eyes unblinkingly looking at Tan Xiu. She found that Tan Xiu's body was surrounded by a sparkling golden light, as if a Buddha had descended, full of sacred aura. Chapter 118. The starry sky was bright and the heat wave was invading. In the depths of the vast starry sky, the stars seemed to have received a mysterious call. The originally dim starry sky was suddenly shrouded by the halos emitted by the stars, layer upon layer, illuminating as if it was daytime. Imperceptibly, a huge amount of star power, like a tide, surged toward the direction of Earth, and its target was Tan Xiu, who was cultivating in the villa in the Southgate town. Mu Qingping sobered up from the shock. Although Tan Xiu did not seem to be in danger, the strange scene still attracted her. She guessed that Tan Xiu was cultivating, but she had never heard of such a terrifying cultivation method. She was even a little worried in her heart. If her daughter had to experience this kind of thing in the future, then after a long while, Mu Qingping slowly withdrew from the door and closed it from the outside. Inside the warehouse, Tan Xiu maintained his cultivation posture, crazily absorbing the star power from all directions. The 9 stars in his dantian, along with the influx of star power, continued to expand. So much so that Tan Xiu's dantian crazily expanded. Fine cracks appeared on the walls of his dantian, which were filled, repaired, and nourished by the star power. Boom boom. At the moment when Tan Xiu was immersed in deep cultivation, the 9 stars in his dantian seemed to have expanded to the limit, and a violent aura erupted in all directions. Tan Xiu's eyes turned black, and an unprecedented pain almost made him howl. His consciousness was as firm as a stone. Although he was drowned in pain, an ecstatic expression appeared on his ferocious face. Through his consciousness, he clearly saw that the original 9 stars in his dantian had turned into 18 stars. These 18 stars exuded a sparkling light, and the volume was almost the same as before. What surprised Tan Xiu the most was that the star power in his body, which had reached the limit, had now become sparse, but the space in his dantian, which was enough to accommodate the star power, had expanded by more than 10 times. Is this the skin-strengthening realm? Tan Xiu slowly opened his eyes. When the 2 balls of light disappeared from his eyes, the thick scabs on his body cracked open like a spider web. As his body trembled, pieces of blood scabs fell to the ground. Clench your fist. Bombardment. Tan Xiu could clearly hear the sound of air exploding from his fist. 20,000 jin. The satisfaction on Tan Xiu's face deepened. With the improvement of his cultivation, his physique and strength had also increased by several times. He was now confident that if he were to encounter those A-class criminals who sold human organs again, even if they were armed, he would be able to kill them head-on. The Qi refinement realm could only be slightly stronger than ordinary people. Only when he reached the skin-strengthening realm could he be considered to have the ability to protect himself. Even if he encountered those martial arts grandmasters, he could still defeat them. Now that I have broken through to the skin-strengthening stage, what I need to do next is to practice seriously and fill up the star power in my dantian as soon as possible. At that time he could try to break through to the peak of the skin-strengthening stage. If I reach the bone-refining stage, the number of stars in my dantian can reach up to 36. At that time, my strength will definitely become stronger. Tan Xiu put on his clothes. He did not tidy up the messy things in the warehouse and quickly entered the villa. When he was practicing, because his physique was tempered, the impurities in his body were discharged. Although the blood scabs had fallen off, the stench was still there. Therefore, he quickly went to the bathroom and used soap and shower gel to clean himself several times. Only then did the stench on his body was completely removed. After taking a bath and changing into clean clothes, Tan Xiu came to the living room in high spirits. Looking at Mu Qingping, who was in a daze on the sofa, Tan Xiu asked, "I have been practicing all night, right? Now I am a little hungry, give me something to eat." Not long after Mu Qingping sat in the living room, she suddenly heard Tan Xiu's words. She suddenly jumped up from the sofa and looked at Tan Xiu with a bit of fear in her eyes. She saw that Tan Xiu was the same as before, except that his skin seemed to be whiter. Your body." Mu Qingping's lips squirmed a few times as she whispered. Tan Xiu stared blankly for a moment. He immediately remembered that when he left the warehouse, he found the broken porcelain bowls on the ground, as well as the dried and hard things. He was suddenly surprised and said, "You went to the warehouse? Did you see me practicing?" Mu Qingping hurriedly said, "I wanted to give you some supper, but I didn't expect you to be practicing. Moreover, your body at that time." Tan Xiu recalled the scene of his naked body practicing, which was unexpectedly seen by Mu Qingping. Suddenly, a bit of embarrassment appeared on his face. He looked up and rubbed his brows as he said with a wry smile, "My body is fine, and it's even better than before. Can you give me something to eat? I'm really hungry." Mu Qingping quickly said, Okay. I'll cook for you now. You've been practicing for 3 days. How can you not be hungry?" Tan Xiu involuntarily exclaimed, "What? You said I've been practicing for 3 days?" Mu Qingping nodded and said, "Yes. You've been practicing in the warehouse for 3 days and 4 nights. I originally thought that practicing was very simple, but I didn't expect it to be so time-consuming." Tan Xiu's mouth twitched a few times as he helplessly walked to the sofa and sat down. He originally thought that concocting the Golden Bell liquid and breaking through his cultivation would only take him 2 days at most. He didn't expect that it would take him 3 days and 4 nights. Gong Dalong only gave him a week's vacation at the university. According to the vacation time, he was already late by 2 days. When I return to the university, I guess I'll be severely criticized by Han Qinggu, right? Tan Xiu secretly smiled wryly inside. Suddenly, Mu Qingping, who had just entered the kitchen, came out wearing an apron. She looked at Tan Xiao and said, "Divine Dr. Tang, when you were cultivating, I went to your room to clean up and happened to hear your cell phone ringing. I paid attention to it for the past 2 days and found that it rang dozens of times a day." "I got it." Tan Xiao stared blankly for a moment before he immediately jumped up from the sofa and rushed to the stairs. After returning to the bedroom, he grabbed his cell phone and looked at the screen showing more than 100 missed calls and dozens of unread text messages. His mouth twitched a few times and his eyes were filled with helplessness. He didn't need to think about it. Among these more than 100 missed calls, there must be Han Qingwu's call. Sure enough, when Tan Xiao opened the missed calls interface, he saw the number of calls Han Qingwu had made to him. 24. It was not a lot. Yuan Chuling, 42 missed calls. Long Zhengyu, 19 missed calls. Long Zhenglin, 32 missed calls. Chen Zhizhong, 6 missed calls. And 2 missed calls from unknown numbers. Tang Xiao slightly nodded in response. His eyes then swept over the names of the others. Yuan Chuling, 42 missed calls. Long Zhengyu, 19 missed calls. Long Zhenglin, 32 missed calls. And Chen Zhizhong, 6 missed calls. Tan Xiao's eyes stopped at the last name and suddenly frowned. This missed call was from Banzhou, a total of 12 missed calls. Almost without hesitation, he called Banzhou back. He was very clear that if it was not something important, Banzhou would never call him so many times. Furthermore, the problem was likely related to his mother. "Hello, is this boss?" A hurried voice came from the phone. "It's me," Tan Xiao said with a deep voice. "You called me more than a dozen times. What's the matter?" "Boss, if you have time, you'd better come to the hospital. Star City Chinese Medical Hospital." Ban Xiu's voice came again. Tan Xiao's breath stagnated. His complexion turned particularly unsightly as he shouted, "Did something happen to my mother?" Banzhou said, "Yes. Big Boss was injured by someone. The injury is not serious, but she needs to rest for a few months. Dingzi, I and the others are here." "Give me the specific location," Tan Xiao said as he rushed out of the bedroom. Star City Chinese Medical Hospital's inpatient department, 6th floor, room 405. "Boss, there's something I must tell you in advance. The person who injured your mother is called Tai Long, and he seems to be very powerful. Banzhou and I are also injured, but we don't dare to go out of the hospital because the other party has sent a lot of people near the hospital. As long as we go out, we will be beaten up. The other party said that if we don't apologize to them, we will never be able to go out of the hospital." "Bastard." A cold murderous intent burst out from Tan Xiao's eyes. He quickly hung up the phone and sprinted out of the villa with his fastest speed. Just as he sprinted to the villa's square, he happened to meet Long Shuiyao, who was accompanied by several property management personnel, who were inspecting the villa complex's environment. Tan Xiao strode to the front of Long Shuiyao and found that several property management personnel accompanying Long Shuiyao were looking at him, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Tan Xiao ignored them and looked at Long Shuiyao as he spoke with a sinking tone. "Do you have a car?" "Yes." Long Shuiyao looked at the gloomy expression on Tan Xiao's face. A strange emotion rose in her heart, but she still answered honestly. Tan Xiao said, "Immediately send me to Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. I have an urgent matter." "All right." Long Shuiyao hesitated for a moment before she nodded and complied. She looked at the several accompanying personnel and said, "Let's stop here for now. We'll discuss the unsolved problems another day. All of you, go do your own things." After saying that, she turned around and walked toward the parking lot of the property management office. Soon, she took Tan Xiao to a white BMW. After opening the door, she looked at Tan Xiao and asked, "Do you want to drive or should I?" "I don't have a driver's license," said Tan Xiao. Long Shuiyao looked at Tan Xiao with a strange expression. With Tan Xiao's age, shouldn't he have long reached the age to take the driver's license test? Furthermore, his identity was not ordinary, so how could he not have a driver's license? However, she didn't ask the question in her heart, but nodded and sat in the driver's seat. After the car started, she looked at Tan Xiao on the front seat and said, "Is there anything I can help with?" I have an acquaintance in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. I'm not sure yet. Let's talk about it later, said Tan Xiao. Long Shuiyao saw that Tan Xiao didn't directly refuse her, so she knew that her guess was correct. Tan Xiao must have someone he cared about in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, and it was very likely that the person was sick or injured. Chapter 119. At Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, Boncho's left arm was wrapped in a plaster cast and hung with a white bandage. Faint bloodstains could be seen on the white bandage. Dingzi's head was also bandaged. The wound was definitely not light, and there were also bloodstains. Additionally, his back was bare, and his shoulders and back were wrapped with bandages. Other parts of his body were also black and blue. The other two men were a bit better than Ban's Ho and Dingzi, but they were also badly bruised and had minor injuries on their bodies. The four of them squatted at the door of the corridor, smoking cigarettes while looking at the door of room 405 across the street. They were afraid that the people who had injured them would be so bold that they would rush into the hospital to commit murder. Big brother Ban's Ho. What did boss say? Dingzi quickly asked after seeing Ban's Ho put away his mobile. Ban's Ho replied with a deep voice, boss said he'll come immediately. Dingzi and the other three secretly heaved a sigh of relief. They admired Tan Xiao's fighting prowess. Although they still didn't know Tan Xiao's specific details, but since Tan Xiao could live in Southgate Town, he seemed to have a very powerful friend. They believed that he would be able to solve this matter. Ban's Ho said, Dingzi, call Little Dong and ask him how the investigation is going. That surname Tai can find so many gangsters, so his identity and background are absolutely not ordinary. We can't put all our hopes on boss. In case the other party's background is really strong, even if we have to gather all our brothers, we must fiercely fight with them. That's right. Our current life has just changed a bit, and the good days are getting closer and closer. Boss is so good to us, we must fight with them. Another youth smashed his cigarette butt on the floor and stamped it with his foot as he fiercely shouted. Shut up. Ban's Ho angrily shouted with a straight face. That youth snorted resentfully, but the fighting intent in his eyes was particularly intense. Dingzi took out his mobile and dialed a cell number. After chatting with the other party for a while, he then hung up and said with a deep voice, Little Dong has inquired about the other party's background. Tai Long has a company, and he has 2 construction sites under him. He also has a lot of thugs around him. The most important thing is that he has a good relationship with a lot of gangsters and gangsters. It can be said that he's rich and powerful. So what if he's rich and powerful? Ban's Ho sneered. Our boss is willing to take us in and give us a chance to change our lives. He couldn't just let this matter go like this. We're not good people to begin with, and we've done a lot of bloody things. If the boss can't deal with Tai Long, then we'll hide and find an opportunity to fiercely beat him up. Even if we can't kill Tai Long, we'll make him pay a painful price. If worst comes to worst, we'll just go far away and hide our identities to live somewhere else. The 2 lightly injured youths hesitated for a moment. Then they made up their minds and said in a deep voice, Then let's fuck those motherfuckers. If he doesn't let us have a good time, we won't let him have a good time either. I'll take the lead and be in charge of using the knife. Dingzi sneered again and again. Although he didn't speak, but thinking about Tang Xiu's trust in them, thinking about the new life Tang Xiu gave them, as well as how well Su Lingyun treated them, Dingzi hated Tai Long to the core. Star City's rich and powerful entertainment clubhouse. Inside the luxuriously decorated KTV private room, Tai Long had a cigar dangling from the corner of his mouth and a deck of cards in his hand. He was playing cards with 3 middle-aged men. Around them were 7 or 8 girls with heavy makeup. They served him tea, massaged his shoulders, and did their best to serve him. One of the middle-aged men had a girl sitting on his thighs, feeding him grapes. Seeing Tai Long playing cards, the middle-aged man shook his head, indicating that he couldn't handle it anymore. Then he said with a faint smile, Old Tai, your luck is pretty good. You should be the winner of this game. It seems like seeing blood is different. I'll also take a few people to look for trouble some other day. Wait until I see blood, I'll definitely kill you and strive to win all of you. Tai Long sneered and said, Seeing blood is not a good thing. This father's crotch is still hurting. That damned bitch, she even dared to kick this father's crotch. It's a pity that she's too old. Although she must have been very beautiful when she was young. She's just a woman now. This father has no interest in her. Otherwise, I'll definitely make that bitch cry in bed for 3 days and 3 nights. The middle-aged man sneered and said, Old Tai, you keep bragging. Let alone 3 days and 3 nights. I think you can't even hold on for 3 hours. I said 3 hours. That's under the premise that you take 8 or 10 small pills. Ha ha. Ha ha ha. The other 2 middle-aged big men also burst into loud laughter. They looked at Tai Long's expression full of ridicule. Tai Long glared and fiercely smashed the cards in his hand on the table. Then, he casually pulled a girl with heavy makeup and quickly tore her clothes. After kneading and kneading, he directly penetrated her. This old Tai. The other 3 big men looked at each other in dismay. They revealed a wry smile. They didn't expect that Tai Long couldn't stand the stimulation, and directly put on a live erotic show for them. It was as if he wanted to prove his ability. Ring ring. On the table in front of Tai Long's seat, the cell phone suddenly rang. A smiling girl grabbed the cell phone and looked at it before handing it to Tai Long. She pressed the answer button under Tai Long's instruction and placed it on his ear. What's up? Tai Long said, but his movements didn't stop. Big brother Long, I just heard from a friend in the underworld that someone is inquiring about your details. A respectful voice came from the phone. Tai Long finally stopped his movements. He directly sat on the chair and asked with a sinking tone, What's the other party's background? I don't know. Tai Long's mood was completely ruined by this phone call. After he pulled up his pants, he pushed the girl to the side. He looked at the 6 astonished eyes and sneered. Someone is investigating me behind my back. Moreover, the investigation has reached my little brother below. The middle-aged man who was eating grapes frowned and lightly said, This is not a good thing. As the saying goes, don't be afraid of thieves stealing, but be afraid of thieves remembering. Did you get into some kind of trouble? Or did you offend some powerful people recently? Tai Long shook his head and said, The construction project is going smoothly. As for the other guys, I've already talked to them. Also, those guys also know about my details, so they don't need to investigate me. Recently, I've been low-key and haven't offended anyone. One of the big men's expression moved as he said, How come you haven't offended anyone? That woman you beat and hospitalized. Don't tell me she has some background? Tai Long sneered. Impossible. I've inquired clearly. That woman is an orphan and a widow from the countryside. She's relying on her restaurant to make a living. Motherfucker. Which immortal did this father offend? Unexpectedly. She's investigating me behind my back? The middle-aged big man lightly said. Since it's not her, then you have to be careful. If you know who it is, then you can arm wrestle with the other party. But if you don't even know who the other party is, then it'll be troublesome. The enemy in the dark is the most fearful. Tai Long was silent for a moment. He made a few phone calls and then said, You guys don't stay idle. Help me find out who it is. You have a lot of connections, so maybe you can find out the other party's origin. Alright. The 3 of them looked at each other and nodded. They and Tai Long were indeed friends, but there were too many interests mixed in it. They could naturally help to investigate the other party's identity. After all, Tai Long was also very important to them. But if the other party's strength was too terrifying, they would immediately withdraw. At Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, after Tan Xiao got down from Long Shuiyao's car, he directly asked her to go back. He didn't pay attention to Long Shuiyao's previous polite words. After all, he and Long Shuiyao were not familiar enough to help him. The reason why Long Shuiyao said those words was probably just to save face. When he rushed to the inpatient department's 6th floor, he saw Bans Ho and Dingzi squatting on both sides of the door of room 405. Tan Xiao strode forward and asked with a gloomy face, How are your injuries? Bans Ho and Dingzi saw Tan Xiao rushing over, and their eyes revealed a bit of joy. Upon hearing Tan Xiao's question, their hearts felt warm. Bans Ho said, Boss, our injuries are not serious. We'll be fine after recuperating for some time. Big Boss just had an operation last night. His arm is comminuted. I'm afraid his right arm won't be able to lift anything later. Other aspects are fine. Comminuted fracture? Was it that serious? A cold killing intent seeped out from Tanxio's eyes. He nodded and pushed open the door of room 405. When he walked inside, he was immediately assaulted by the unpleasant smell inside. Moreover, there were 3 beds in total in room 405, and each bed was occupied by a patient. Moreover, there were many family members of the patients in the other 2 beds, and it was very noisy. "Mom, how are you?" Tanxio strode to Su Lingyun's bed and asked with concern. Su Lingyun was half lying on the bed. Upon seeing Tanxio, she immediately shook her head and said, "Son, I'm fine. What's going on with Ban's Ho and the others? I told them that I'm fine, so I don't need to tell you. But they didn't listen to me." Tanxio shook his head and said, "I told them that if something happened to you, they must inform me as soon as possible. I couldn't answer the phone in time because of some special reasons yesterday, so I came late." Su Lingyun said, "Son, you still have less than a month before the college entrance test. Don't let this matter affect your studies. You don't need to worry about me. It's enough for Ban's Ho and the others to stay here. Go back to campus quickly." Tanxio shook his head and said, "Mom, I already know the cause and effect of the matter. That surname Tai will never let this matter go. You don't need to hide it from me. Ban's Ho and the others have already told me about it. Don't worry. I can make Ban's Ho and the others turn over a new leaf, and I can also make those who injured you apologize to you. You just need to have a good rest and recuperate. I'll take care of the rest." "Son, you can't act recklessly," Su Lingyun exclaimed. "The other party is very powerful. You can't afford to offend them. Besides, as long as I stay in the hospital for some time, the other party's anger will completely dissipate, and they won't make things difficult for us anymore." Chapter 120. Tanxio looked at his mother's worried face. After a moment of silence, he slowly nodded and said, "Then I'll listen to you and won't look for trouble with them. Mom, if you need anything, just tell me. I'll tell Ban's Ho to handle it. In addition, I have to stay in the hospital to accompany you for the next few days." Su Lingyun angrily said, "No. You must go back to the university. If your college entrance exam is affected because of this matter, I'd rather die." Tanxio opened his mouth, but no words came out. He knew his mother's character too well. If he insisted on staying here, he was afraid that she would really do something absurd. "All right, I'll go back." Tanxio sighed inwardly. He looked at the ward and said, "But before I leave, you must promise me one thing." "What is it?" Su Lingyun asked. Tanxio said, "Change the ward. This place is dirty and messy. It's not a place for people to stay. I'm not at ease if you stay here to receive treatment." In the ward, the 7 or 8 family members of the other 2 patients immediately became unhappy after hearing Tanxio's words. They angrily said, Hey, what are you talking about, young man? This is the inpatient department of the Chinese medical hospital. How is it dirty and messy? How is it not a place for people to live? Don't you know how to speak? Yeah, the conditions here are good enough, but you actually despise it. If you have the ability, why don't you transfer your mom to the VIP ward? People like you are already in the hospital after being beaten up, and yet you're still acting like you're worth something. You're just a student, but your tone is not small. If it weren't for your mom working hard to open a restaurant to support your education, food and clothing, you would have already starved to death on the street. You're so arrogant now. If you have the ability, go and avenge your mom. If you have the ability, go and change your mom to the VIP ward. This Chinese medical hospital has VIP wards, but those who stay there are either rich or powerful people. People like you who run a small restaurant don't have much money, and don't have any connections. How can you stay in a VIP ward? You still have the face to despise this place? You're really shameless. Young people nowadays. It was just unrealistic. When they really step into society and know how hard it is to make money, they will put away their arrogant temperament and live like cowards. Big sister, this son of yours. Tanxio didn't expect that his words would provoke so much mockery and ridicule. At this moment, there seemed to be a ball of fire in his heart. Before he could vent it, He heard these people talking all at once. He immediately became furious and said, "All of you shut up." Everyone shut their mouths. They stared dumbfoundedly at Tan Xiao, whose face was full of anger. Two young men looked at Tan Xiao with unkind expressions, as if they wanted to beat him up. However, when they thought about the people who served Su Lingyun, none of them seemed to be kind people. Their arrogance immediately subsided. It was human nature to bully the weak and fear the strong. Therefore, the two young men snorted and turned away resentfully. "Son, don't be so rude." Su Lingyun stared at Tan Xiao with an amused and angry expression. After reprimanding him, she immediately apologized to the others in the room. Tan Xiao took out his mobile and dialed Long Jingyu's number. "Hello, Brother Tang? You finally turned on your phone. I've called you many times in the past 2 days, but I couldn't get in touch with you. I personally went to Southgate Town, but your housekeeper blocked me at the door. Where are you now? I'll come to you now. We need to talk about something face to face." Long Jingyu's voice came from the phone. "I don't have time to talk to you now," Tan Xiao said in a deep tone. "I'm calling you to ask if you recognize anyone in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital? My mother was injured and is now staying in the ordinary ward. I want to transfer her to the VIP ward. It's fine to spend more money." "Who injured Auntie?" Long Jingyu angrily said. "Wait for me. I'll rush there immediately. Also, I'll call the president of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital on the way there. He's my father's old classmate." The new inpatient building of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital was built by our Long family. "Then hurry up." After saying that, Tan Xiao directly hung up the phone. A moment later, Long Jingyu's call came back. Tang Xiao was flabbergasted when he picked it up. Long Jingyu's voice was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. "Brother Tang, you haven't told me your mother's name and which ward she's staying in. Otherwise, even if I contact the president, he won't know who to call." Tan Xiao blushed with shame. After telling Long Jingyu his mother's name and ward number, he then hung up the phone. At Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, in the spacious and clean president's office, Li Hongji was watering the plants in front of the potted plants. He was nearly 60 years old, and had long passed the age of striving for his career, without any regard for his own safety. Furthermore, the time for his retirement was fast approaching, so he began to delegate the power in his hands. He often cultivated his body and mind, growing flowers and grasses. He even hung a few bird cages at home and raised a few thrushes. He had been engaged in the medical field for many years, and his attainments in Chinese medicine had reached a very high level. Even in the Chinese medicine field in China, he was ranked among the top. Of course, the most important thing was that his master was the divine Dr. Gue Jianqiu. However, except for a few people who knew about this matter, most people simply didn't know about it. That brat Guoxiong lost his face in Jingmen Island a few days ago, and unexpectedly ran to Star City. If Master knows about it, I'm afraid he'll curse him. A smile hung on the corner of Li Hongji's mouth. He felt that the matter of his junior brother losing his face was a bit funny. But he can cure that little girl's strange illness. What's the origin of that young man? Last year, that woman called Mu Qingping came to my place. Unfortunately, I was also helpless against that strange illness. Now that this young man has cured her, I really don't know which divine doctor's disciple he is. Li Hongji put the watering can on the windowsill. Just as he returned to his desk, his mobile phone on the desk rang. When he picked up the phone and saw the caller ID, a surprised expression immediately appeared on his face. It was because he found out that the person who called him turned out to be the son of his old classmate, Long Jingyu. "Why is he looking for me?" With a surprised expression on his face, Li Hongji pressed the answer button and said with a smile, "Jingyu, you're looking for me? Did your dad ask you to send me some good wine again?" "Uncle Li, haven't you already drunk my dad's good wine?" Long Jingyu said. Li Hongji laughed and said, "You brat, I'm not that amazing. All right, let's cut the chit-chat. With your character of, you don't call me for no reason. There must be something you need from me. Say it. Do you have any instructions?" "Uncle Li, instructions are out of the question. I'm looking for you for something important," Long Jingyu quickly said. "Something important? It was rare for Li Hongji to hear Long Jingyu being so serious. The smile on his face quickly disappeared as he said with a deep tone, "Speak, I'm listening." Long Jingyu said, "Uncle Li, I have a friend whose mother is hospitalized in your Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. He wants to transfer his mother to the VIP ward. Can you make an exception for him?" Li Hongji was surprised and said, "Just this trivial matter?" Long Jingyu forced a smile and said, "It may be a trivial matter for you, but it's a big deal for me. Uncle Li, you should have heard my dad mention a person when you were drinking with him recently, right? Tan Xiao, a young man who is younger than me and is still a high school student." Tan Xiao? Li Hongji stared blankly as the name quickly emerged in his mind. In a flash, his expression turned especially serious as he said with a deep tone, "Is he Chen Zhizhong's master?" "Yes." Long Jingyu said. Li Hongji said, "Since Tan Xiao is Chen Zhizhong's master, why didn't he ask Chen Zhizhong for help? Why did he ask you to contact me instead? You must know that Chen Zhizhong and I are old friends for decades. Our Chinese medical hospital also has a lot of business dealings with him. As long as he asks, even if he doesn't look for me, the people below will arrange it properly." Long Jingyu said with a smile, "I can't wait for him to look for me. This is a big favor. Uncle Li, you don't know how much Tan Xiao's favor is worth now. I have 2 friends in the capital. In order to make friends with Tan Xiao, they even decided to divert their family's billions of investment funds to invest in our Star City. They even gave him the shares for free." Li Hongji was shocked and said, "What is Tan Xiao's origin exactly? Your dad said that he doesn't know. You have a good relationship with him, so you should know more than your dad, right?" Long Jingyu said with a forced smile, "What I know is not much more than my dad. That Tan Xiao is unfathomable." Li Hongji said, "All right, I got it. I'll arrange this matter and immediately transfer his mother to the VIP ward. Also, the medical expenses will be free." Long Jingyu said with a smile, "Thank you, Uncle Li." Li Hongji said with a forced smile, "Don't thank me. I'll be satisfied if you steal your dad's good wine to show your filial piety later." Long Jingyu said with a smile, "Don't worry. I'll definitely have good wine to show my filial piety to you." After hanging up the phone, the smile on Li Hongji's face faded and his expression turned serious. He pondered for a moment, and then dialed the phone number of one of the vice presidents. After giving some instructions, he silently went to the office chair and sat down. Tan Xiao? This name sounded familiar. Was it because Long Hanwen had mentioned it before? No. Absolutely not. Aside from Long Hanwen, there should be someone else who had told him. Who was this person? Li Hongji's eyes flashed with a pondering expression as he fell into silence. Room 405 on the 6th floor of the inpatient department. Tan Xiao was personally packing his mother's clothes and daily necessities. The sharp and unkind middle-aged woman's voice sounded in the surroundings. "What are you packing? It's as if it's real. You're just a high school student. Do you really think that you can send your mother to the VIP ward just by making a phone call? The patients who can stay in the VIP ward, which one of them isn't rich? Bah." With that said, she fiercely smashed the toilet paper in her hand that had just been used to wipe her snot on the floor. Then she walked to the bedside and sat down. Chapter 121. Tan Xiao turned around and looked at her. He coldly snorted and ignored her. Seeing Tan Xiao's silence, the middle-aged woman thought that Tan Xiao had a guilty conscience. She immediately became more arrogant and her words became harsher and harsher. "What's wrong? Did I hit the nail on the head? Do you feel shameful now? I advise you not to transfer your mother to another ordinary ward. It's not necessary to put on airs. Besides, your mother is injured now. If you have any filial piety, don't torment her. Young man, you're not reliable if you don't have hair on your mouth." Tan Xiao finally stopped his actions. He looked at the middle-aged man who was sitting on the bed and reading the newspaper. He lightly said, "Do you believe that I can make the people in the hospital kick your man out? I'm not wrong, right? Is this your man?" The middle-aged woman glared at him. Her voice instantly raised a few pitches as she angrily shouted, "Do you have the guts to say it again? You've overturned the heavens. Do you have the ability to make us leave? Do you have the ability to take it out? This old lady wants to see whether a little high school student like you can overturn the heavens or not. The middle-aged man on the bed also put down the newspaper. He looked at Tan Xiao and sneered. Kid, don't talk big and cut your tongue. Your mother is a good person. She's docile and sensible. How could she give birth to such an insensible son like you? I really feel wronged for her. Tan Xiao shook his head. He turned around and continued to pack his things. As the saying goes, if you're not a family, don't enter the same door. The middle-aged man and the middle-aged woman were worthy of being a couple. They were of the same character. He really didn't want to pay attention to such people. Su Lingyun didn't expect that her usually well-behaved and sensible son would act as if he was possessed today. He kept saying offensive words. Upon hearing the man on the bed next to her, she quickly said, Big brother, please don't lower yourself to my son's level. He's just a kid who doesn't know anything. I'll definitely teach him a lesson. The middle-aged woman who was being sarcastic immediately shouted, Big sister, my husband is right. How could you give birth to such a thing? Did you listen to him? Is he speaking human language? They said that this was not a place for people to stay and that they could get the hospital to kick us out. He's really arrogant to the heavens. Bang! Tan Xiao frowned and was about to speak when the door of the ward was pushed open. A group of doctors in large white coats escorted a middle-aged doctor into the ward. In the ward, there were many people who recognized the person in the lead. He was the director of the inpatient department and had a lot of real power. Sorry to disturb everyone. May I ask who is Mr. Tan Xiao Tang? The director of the inpatient department asked in an extremely polite tone. Look for Tan Xiao. Why is her tone so polite? The sharp-tongued middle-aged woman and her husband on the sickbed looked at each other in dismay. A bad premonition grew in their hearts. I am. Tan Xiao stopped packing and said lightly. The inpatient department's director quickly greeted him with a smile and respectfully said, Hello, Mr. Tang. We didn't know that this lady was your mother. Please forgive us for our slight neglect. I just received a call from Vice President Gao, so I personally brought some people here. Vice President Gao said that he will be here soon and has prepared the best VIP ward. Your mother can move there at any time. Thank you. Tan Xiao nodded and said. The inpatient department's director looked flattered and said, You're welcome. This is what we should do. Tan Xiao said. Wait a minute. I'll pack up my mother's things first. Also, she's in poor health. You'd better send someone to push a cart over. The inpatient department's director quickly said, I'll send someone to prepare a cart. At the side, the husband and wife were dumbfounded. Not only them, but those who laughed at Tan Xiao before were also dumbfounded and tongue-tied at the scene in front of them. They never dreamed that Tan Xiao was not only not bragging, but also boasting in a complete mess. Who was the inpatient department's director? He was a high and mighty figure in their eyes. They had to talk to the inpatient department's director with a smile. Yet he was facing Tan Xiao with a smile. Was he really a high school student? This thought emerged in everyone's mind. I'm sorry I'm late. May I ask who Mr. Tan Xiao is? Gao Jianmin almost ran and rushed in from outside the ward, followed by 4 or 5 hospital leaders. When he learned from the inpatient department's director who Tan Xiao was, he immediately said with a smile, Mr. Tang, the VIP ward is ready. Your mother will be sent there later. Also, all the expenses of your mother in our hospital will be waived. If there's anything else you need our help with, we'll do our best to do it. What? The face of the middle-aged woman who had just ridiculed Tang Xiao turned as white as a sheet in an instant. Her eyes flashed with disbelief, and her body began to tremble. How could she not tremble? The vice president said that he would do his best to satisfy Tan Xiao's request. If Tan Xiao said something and drove her husband out, wouldn't she be beaten to death by her husband and cursed by her relatives at home? Moreover, her husband had queued up for more than half a month just to wait for the operation. He was about to enter the operating room, but suddenly this moth appeared. What would she do if her husband's condition was delayed? How would she live her life in the future? The middle-aged man on the sickbed was also panic-stricken. He fiercely glared at his wife, and then looked at Tan Xiao with fear and trepidation in his eyes. In the president's office, Li Hongji rubbed his temples and racked his brains for a while. He didn't know where he had heard this familiar name from other than Long Hanwen. Ring, ring, ring. His cell phone rang again. Li Hongji grabbed the phone and looked at the caller ID. He immediately let out a faint smile as he picked up the call and said, "Junior brother, I'll go back soon. If you're too bored, you can go to my study room to look at the books inside. There are several books of Master's medical experience." "Senior brother, I've read them all. Staying in your house is really boring, so I'm going to the imperial capital. I received the news in the morning that Master's trail has appeared in the imperial capital." Chu Guoxiong's voice came from the phone. "The imperial capital?" Li Hongji's spirit shook as he said with a sinking tone. "Junior brother, if you find Master, remember to tell me first. I'll go pay my respects to the senior." "All right," Chu Guoxiong replied. Li Hongji said with a smile, "Junior brother, you came in a hurry and left in a hurry. This senior brother hasn't properly entertained you yet. You don't need to take the matter from a few days ago to heart. You must know that there's always a mountain higher than a mountain. There are countless hidden experts in the boundless world of mortals. Even if Master knows about it, he'll just laugh it off." His words suddenly came to a screeching halt. His eyes turned round in an instant. The answer that he had been racking his brains for just now emerged in his inadvertent words. Tan Xiao? Wasn't that the young divine doctor who cured Mu Qingping's daughter's strange illness and made his junior brother lose all his face? That's right, his junior brother had indeed said this name. It was Tan Xiao. Could it be that Jingmen Island's Tan Xiao and this Tan Xiao were the same person? Li Hongji quickly said goodbye to his junior brother, Chu Guoxiong, and then hurriedly hung up the phone. While pondering in his mind, he dialed Long Jingyu's number. "Hello, Uncle Li." Long Jingyu's voice came out of the phone. Li Hongji asked with a hurried tone, "Jingyu, I want to ask you something. You must tell me the truth. A few days ago, you said that Tan Xiao, where is he now?" Long Jingyu was confused. "Uncle Li, why are you asking about this? Tan Xiao had something to do a few days ago, and went to Jingmen Island. It seems that he just came back a few days ago." "Jingmen Island?" Li Hongji exclaimed. Long Jingyu stared blankly and asked again, "Uncle Li, is there something wrong? Why did you ask about Tan Xiao's matter? Moreover, you seem a bit surprised that he went to Jingmen Island?" Li Hongji forced a smile and said, "My junior brother came from Jingmen Island a few days ago. He lost his face in Jingmen Island, and it can be said that even my master's reputation has been implicated. And the person who made my junior brother lose his face is this Tan Xiao. All right, I'll talk to you later. I have to see this Tan Xiao." Hello. Li Hongji ignored Long Jingyu, who still wanted to speak. After hanging up the phone, he hurriedly rushed out of the office and rushed to the inpatient department. Plop. In room 405 on the 6th floor of the inpatient department, the middle-aged woman with a deathly pale complexion knelt straight in front of Tan Xiao. With a fearful expression, she begged, "Tan Xiao. That's not right. Brother Tang, it's all my fault. I have eyes but failed to recognize MT Tai. Please be magnanimous and don't let the hospital's leaders drive my husband out. We've been waiting here for more than half a month for his operation. Seeing that it's our turn soon, you must be kind and don't let them drive us away. I beg you." In an instant, each and every one of the doctors who came to the ward had a strange expression on their faces. Even those who had ridiculed Tang Xiao before now looked worried. Another patient on the sickbed forced a smile and said, "Little brother Tang, we were wrong before. I've made a mistake many times in my life, but this time is the biggest mistake. Please forgive us fools and don't lower yourself to our level. Your mother is a good person, and I believe you're also a good person." "Mr. Tang, this is..." Gao Jianmin was surprised. Tan Xiao shook his head and waved his hand to signal the middle-aged woman kneeling in front of him to stand up. Then he lightly said, "It's good that you know you're a snob. I hope you'll pay more attention in the future. A loose tongue can cause trouble. Talk less and don't always bring disaster to your family." After saying that, he then said to Gao Jianmin, "It's no big deal. It's just a small misunderstanding. I'll have to trouble you to move my mother's ward." Gao Jianmin shot a deep look at the middle-aged woman. Then he smiled and said to Tan Xiao, "Please rest assured, Mr. Tang. I'll arrange it properly." Chapter 122. At the door, Ban's Ho, Dingzi, and the others were dumbfounded as they looked at what happened in the ward. They had seen the ridicule from the middle-aged woman towards Tan Xiao, as well as the disdain from the patient's family towards Tan Xiao. But now, the situation had unexpectedly reversed 180 degrees. The boss was amazing. The four of them were filled with excitement, and their admiration towards Tan Xiao had increased by a few points. After all, not everyone had the ability to make the vice president of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital rush over with just a phone call. At this moment, the four of them were more determined to follow Tan Xiao. Soon, Tan Xiao had packed up his mother's clothes, daily necessities, and other things. After handing them over to Ban's Ho, Dingzi, and the other two, he then carefully helped his mother, Su Lingyun, to sit up. At this moment, Su Lingyun was still in shock. It was as if she didn't know her son. She had never thought that her son would actually be able to make her move to the VIP ward. Finally, Su Lingyun sobered up from the shock. She looked at Tan Xiao with a complex expression and whispered, "Son, I think it's good to live here. Let's not go." Tan Xiao interrupted Su Lingyun and said, "Mom, the environment there should be better than here. Besides, there are too many people in this room. Ban's Ho, Dingzi, and the others are here to take care of you, so it's not convenient. Just listen to me. I'll arrange everything." All right. In front of so many people, Su Lingyun finally chose not to insist. She could clearly feel her son's filial piety. At this moment, her heart was filled with warmth. "Sorry I'm late." An abrupt voice sounded at the door. Faint traces of sweat appeared on Li Hongji's forehead. After entering the door, he looked around before his eyes finally fell on Tan Xiao. "President." The doctors and leaders in the ward, including Gao Jianmin, all respectfully called out to Li Hongji. Li Hongji nodded and looked at Tan Xiao with a smile. "You are Tan Xiao, right? You are indeed a young hero. I have heard of your great name before. I'm Li Hongji, the president of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital." Dean Li. Tan Xiao was not surprised at all. He calmly nodded at Li Hongji. The other people in the ward, especially the sarcastic couple, were so scared that they almost fell to the ground. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect that not only the vice president of the Chinese Medicine Hospital, but also the president of the Chinese Medicine Hospital would come. Moreover, looking at his enthusiastic manner, it seemed that he was also here to curry favor with Tan Xiao. The faces of the others were even uglier than before. They were really afraid that Tan Xiao would bring up the past again. If the director gave the order, they would definitely be kicked out of the hospital. Even Ban's Ho, Dingzi, and the other two looked at Li Hongji with a dumbfounded expression. They were shocked and couldn't calm down for a long time. Li Hongji's brows slanted. He didn't care about Tan Xiao's attitude as he said with a smile, "Tan Xiao, my junior brother came to Star City a few days ago and told me about some shameful things that happened to him a few days ago. Do you want to know why?" Tan Xiao frowned and lightly said, "If you're here to chat about family matters, wait for me to settle my mother first. If you're here to help, I'll have to trouble you to act now. I'm not interested in knowing about your junior brother's matters, and I don't feel like it either." "Xiao, how can you talk to the president like that?" Su Lingyun panicked and reprimanded Tan Xiao. In her eyes, this Chinese medical hospital's president was a great man. He obviously came to be polite, yet her baby son didn't give him a good face. Tan Xiao sighed helplessly as he looked at Li Hongji and said, all right. What do you want to say? Just say it directly." An awkward expression flashed on Li Hongji's face as he forced a smile and said, "Tan Xiao, you're the young divine doctor who cured Mu Qingping's daughter's strange illness a few days ago in Jingmen Island's medicinal herbs market, right? Chu Guoxiong is my junior brother." Chu Guoxiong? Tan Xiao recalled the divine doctor's successor who had ridiculed him many times and finally made a fool of himself. He immediately asked, "Is your master also a Gui Jianqiu?" Li Hongji happily admitted, "Yes, he's indeed my master." Tan Xiao said, Your junior brother's temper isn't very good. It's only right for him to make a fool of himself. If he's still brooding over that matter, I'll have to trouble you to tell him. Doctors are virtuous and benevolent. Don't look at the sky from the bottom of a well, and don't judge people by their appearance. Li Hongji's complexion changed. Upon hearing Tan Xiao indirectly admitting that he was the one who cured Mu Qingping's daughter in Jingmen Island, Li Hongji was not angry but happy instead. He excitedly said, "Mr. Tang, I've actually diagnosed Mu Qingping's daughter's strange illness. I could only detect her physical condition, but I was powerless to treat her. I didn't expect that she would be cured by you. I have a presumptuous request, but I don't know if you can agree to it." "Say it," Tan Xiao said with a frown. With a face full of expectation, Li Hongji said, "Can I hire you to be the medical expert of our Chinese medical hospital? You can rest assured that I'll give you the best treatment and the highest standard." Tan Xiao waved his hand to interrupt Li Hongji and lightly said, "I'm sorry, I'm not interested. Besides, I'm still a student and will soon take the college entrance test. I don't have the time to come to the hospital to provide medical services." Dumbfounded, Li Hongji looked at Tan Xiao with an incredulous expression. Student? Tan Xiao was a student. Moreover, he was a high school student who was about to take the college entrance test? Was this some kind of international joke? Everyone in the ward was shocked by Li Hongji's words. Never in their dreams had they ever thought that Li Hongji would make such a request to Tan Xiao. Gao Jiamin looked at Tan Xiao with a strange expression. He pulled Li Hongji's clothes and whispered, "President, are you joking? Mr. Tang's age." Li Hongji turned his head and glared at Gao Jiamin as he shouted, "What about his age? Don't you think he's young? Didn't you hear what he asked me to tell my junior brother? Who's my master? It's the divine Dr. Gue Jianqiu. You've been in this Chinese medical hospital for more than 20 years. Don't tell me you haven't heard of my master's name. His 2 personal disciples couldn't cure the disease, yet Tan Xiao can cure it. Do you think I'll joke around?" Gao Jianmin was speechless. He had also diagnosed Mu Qingping's daughter. Indeed, just like what Li Hongji said, he couldn't cure the child's strange disease. At this moment, only Su Lingyun was still sober. She didn't believe Li Hongji's words, so she whispered, "President, my son doesn't know how to treat a patient. Are you sure you're not mistaken?" Li Hongji said with a serious expression, "I'm not mistaken. If he was in Jingmen Island a few days ago, then the person my junior brother said must be him." Su Lingyun turned to look at Tan Xiao and whispered, "Xiao, tell me, were you in Jingmen Island a few days ago? Tell me the truth." Tan Xiao sighed inside as he said with a forced smile, "Mom, I was indeed in Jingmen Island a few days ago. The person who cured the child's disease was me. I didn't tell you before because I thought it was unnecessary. Usually, when I'm idle and bored, I often read medical books. I didn't expect that what was written in the book was correct. The child's disease was really accidentally cured by me." After saying that, he looked at Li Hongji and said again, "This matter ends here. My mother is still injured and needs to rest." Li Hongji shot a deep look at Tan Xiao. From Tan Xiao's attitude, he could see that Tan Xiao really didn't want to stay in the Chinese medical hospital to provide medical services. He even seemed to be deliberately avoiding his mother, not wanting his mother to know that he had medical skills. The inpatient department's VIP ward was much higher than the ordinary ward. Not only was it a spacious single room, but there were also specialized nurses to take care of the patients. Tan Xiao had always been aware that officials have their own social class and people have their own hierarchy. But he didn't expect that the disparity between the two would be so big. Li Hongji was a shrewd old man. He could tell that Tan Xiao didn't like to be followed by so many people, so he sent away the other leaders of the hospital, leaving only the inpatient department's director to accompany him. After settling down, he took advantage of the time when Tan Xiao walked out of the ward to sincerely say in the corridor again, "Tan Xiao, I didn't know what you were thinking before, so I said something that I shouldn't have said in front of your mother. I hope you don't mind it. I'm sincerely begging you to come to our Chinese medical hospital to provide medical services. Even if you only come every 3 to 5 days, just help us solve the incurable diseases." I really don't have time, Tan Xiao said with a dissatisfied expression. Li Hongji forced a smile and said, Tan Xiao, there's still less than a month left. Aren't you going to take the college entrance test? After the college entrance test, you'll have more than 2 months of vacation. You can rest assured that we won't disturb you when you're busy. Nowadays, the doctors and experts of our Chinese medical hospital are at a loss of what to do. Looking at the patients suffering from the pain and the desperate expressions of their family members, we as doctors really feel very uncomfortable. This old man is begging you, please come to our hospital when you have time. Begging? Tan Xiao secretly rolled his eyes. This guy's voice was full of emotion and looked very sincere. He really didn't know how to refuse again. After being silent for a moment, Tan Xiao slowly said, once a month. I'll arrange the time. Li Hongji quickly said, 3 times a month, once every 10 days. Tan Xiao glared at him. If it wasn't because his mother was hospitalized in their hospital and they were polite to him, he really wouldn't have bothered to pay attention to this old guy. After pondering for a few seconds, he said, twice a month. I'll arrange the time as usual. Otherwise, don't bother me. Li Hongji was overjoyed inwardly. He secretly decided that he must make good use of this opportunity twice a month. A bright smile hung on his face as he said, give me your ID card. I'll help you handle the documents myself. That's right. Do you have a medical qualification certificate? I'm still a student. Why would I need that thing? Tan Xiao said without being salty nor light. I don't even want to be a doctor in the future. Ugh. Li Hongji could only force a wry smile inwardly. He secretly sighed that geniuses were eccentric enough. But at the same time he could only say with a smile, since you don't have it yet, then I'll handle it for you myself. But you'll need to wait for some time. Nowadays, everything depends on the diploma and certificate. It will be much more convenient for you to mingle in the society later with those things. Chapter 123. Tan Xiao stared blankly for a moment before he nodded. He suddenly remembered a saying, you can go anywhere in the world with a certificate, but you can't go anywhere without one. This saying was the evolved version of, you can go anywhere in the world with money, but you can't go anywhere without money. This was also a stark illustration of the importance of a certificate in the real world. In this era, people not only looked at the face, but also the certificate. I'm relieved that you're handling this matter. I'll be waiting for the good news. Tan Xiao said in a dull tone as he put on a posture that said, you can go now. Li Hongji looked at Tan Xiao's appearance as he secretly smiled wryly in his heart. He was a dignified divine doctor's successor, the president of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, and a grandmaster professor in the medical field. Yet he unexpectedly had no choice but to be humble in front of Tan Xiao. This is really fucking suffocating. Even Li Hongji, who had cultivated his mind, couldn't help but burst out a curse word inside his heart. Along with the departure of Li Hongji and the inpatient department's director, Tan Xiao's vision shifted back to Bans Ho, Dingzi, and the others as he spoke with a sinking tone. Now you can tell me the specific reason. Why did Tai Long have a conflict with you? He even dared to beat my mom? A bit of anger was revealed on Ban Xiao's face as he said, yesterday at noon, we were helping out in the restaurant. Because there were a lot of guests, there was a very long waiting line. Therefore, Tai Long brought a few people to our restaurant to have a meal. Because there were no seats, he asked us to drive away the other table's guests. Big Boss didn't want to, so Tai Long beat them. At that time, there were only 4 of us in the restaurant, so we couldn't beat him. Big Boss was also injured. Later, they drove away all the guests of our restaurant, and even smashed the restaurant. After we sent Big Boss to the hospital, we were ready to go out to buy some daily necessities. As a result, just as we walked out of the hospital's entrance, we were attacked by more than 20 guys. After being beaten, we were thrown back into the hospital. Tai Long also threatened that unless the Big Boss kowtowed to him as an apology and compensated him with a satisfactory amount of mental damage compensation, we would have to stay in the hospital forever. Every time we took a step out of the hospital, we would be beaten up. After Dingzi tried to go out, he was beaten again. Tan Xiu was so angry that he laughed. Good, 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 he repeatedly said. Good, good, good. In the past, he had always been the one to bully others. Who would have thought that he would be the one being bullied today? The four of you stay in the hospital and protect my mother while you recuperate. Leave Tai Long's matter to me. Ban Ho quickly said. You must be careful, boss. I know you are very powerful and your fighting skills are very high. But I've sent people to inquire about Tai Long's background. He's very powerful in Star City. Not only does he have a group of thugs under him, but he also has countless connections with those gangsters. Tan Xiu narrowed his eyes and sneered. Only if he's strong enough can I continue playing with him. You don't have to worry. In this world, there aren't many enemies that can make me, Tan Xiu, afraid. He wasn't boasting. Even though he had to start all over again, no one would dare to say they were second to him when it came to killing people. Whether it was Chimen Dunjia, offensive talismans, or even poison, he could poison tens of thousands of enemies to death. When he was at the bottom of the immortal world, he had used these unorthodox methods more than tens of thousands of times, right? Tell me in detail about Tai Long's background. All right. 10 minutes later, Tan Xiu got some information about Tai Long. He wasn't a passive person. He had to take the initiative to attack the enemy. This was his style. Walking out of the inpatient department, Tan Xiu had a headache. Without his own car, it would be inconvenient for him to do anything. He was considering whether he should take advantage of the summer vacation after the college entrance test to get his driver's license. At the entrance of the Chinese medical hospital, just as Tan Xiu walked out of the door, he was keenly aware that there were some sloppy youths in the surroundings who looked at him from time to time. They had dyed hair and wore strange clothes. Their sleeves were bulging. Apparently, they were carrying sticks and other weapons. It should be them. Tan Xiu's complexion turned cold. He quickly locked on one of the most obvious youths and walked over. You come here for me. Tan Xiu stopped 6 or 7 meters away from the other party, and then provocatively hooked his finger at him. The youth with long hair dyed purple had a few ear studs on his ears. His face wasn't handsome, but there was a scar left from his glorious history. The most disgusting thing was that not only was there a pungent perfume smell on his body, but he also wore a contact lens. Call your sister. The youth glared at Tan Xiu and cursed as he slowly walked over. Tan Xiu lightly said, I don't want to hit the wrong person, so I want to ask you a question. Are you one of Tai Long's men? If you are, call all the people nearby and follow me. The youth stared blankly for a moment before he immediately burst into laughter and said, Brothers, did you hear what this bastard just said? He wants us to go with him? Ha ha ha, this father is Brother Long's man. You fucking know Brother Long. Why don't you kneel and kowtow to us and call us Grandpa? You're lucky. This is the hospital's entrance. Tan Xiu sneered. The youth rolled his eyes and looked at Tan Xiu as though he was looking at an idiot. More than 20 youths in the surrounding also laughed and cursed. They simply didn't take Tan Xiu seriously. They just felt strange and thought that Tan Xiu was a patient who came to the wrong hospital. Brat, the mental hospital is in the East Outer Ring. This is a Chinese medical hospital. If you're sick in the head, go to the mental hospital quickly. Motherfucker, I'm not interested in beating a psychopath. In order to infuriate them and make them beat him in public, Tan Xiu lightly said, You're the psychopath. Your whole family has psychopaths. You people should be local hooligans, right? The ancestors of you hooligans for 18 generations are all crazy. What? The youth was dumbfounded, and the surrounding youths also looked at each other in dismay. Never in their dreams did they expect that Tan Xiu would dare to scold them. In a flash, a thin and tall youth smashed the soybean milk bun in his hand at Tan Xiu, and lifted his leg to kick Tan Xiu. Humph. Tan Xiu easily dodged the soybean milk bun, and the killing intent in his heart increased a bit. He raised his leg, which was several times faster than his opponent, and directly kicked him in the chest. Puff! The youth spurted out a mouthful of blood as his eyes turned white and flew upside down for 7 meters. Although he was not kicked to death by Tan Xiu, he still suffered serious internal injuries and directly fainted after falling to the ground. The more than 20 youths in the surrounding had just woken up from their stupor. They were startled to see their companion so easily knocked down by Tan Xiao and directly fainted. However, they believed that 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. Even if Tan Xiao had some strength, he wouldn't be able to withstand their punches and kicks. A Chang, Huzai de Dong Xiaoyang. The 4 of you go and practice with this kid. He dares to fight with us brothers. I want to see how much he is worth. Nearby, a man in his 30s approached. His eyes flashed with coldness as he ordered his men to teach Tan Xiao a lesson. Okay. The 4 of them took out hollow steel pipes from their sleeves and quickly surrounded Tan Xiao. Almost in an instant, the 4 waved the steel pipes and smashed them toward Tan Xiao. Overestimating yourself. Tan Xiao moved his feet and appeared in front of a Chang in an instant. His fist directly bombarded a Chang's face, knocking out a few of his teeth and sending him flying with a kick. Tang Xiao easily dodged the 3 incoming steel pipes. His moves were extremely simple. Straight punch, uppercut, flying kick. From the beginning to the end, it didn't take more than 5 seconds for the remaining 3 young bullies to be knocked down. Moreover, his moves were ruthless, breaking a few of their bones. The pupils of the man in his 30s shrunk. Looking at Tan Xiao's invincible posture, an angry expression climbed up his face. He strode toward Tan Xiao and shouted, "Let's do it together and cripple him." Tan Xiao's complexion didn't change, but his moves were a bit faster. It was human nature to love to watch a good show. The scene of Tan Xiao being besieged by more than 20 people naturally attracted many passers-by to stop and watch. Many people were shocked when Tan Xiao easily knocked down 5 youths. But when they saw nearly 20 youths armed with lethal weapons pouncing toward Tang Xiao, they were secretly startled and broke into a cold sweat for Tang Xiao. This young man is really unlucky. How did he get into such big trouble? He's very good at fighting and can knock down 4 people in one breath. But nearly 20 people can't be defeated by an individual's strength. These hooligans are too arrogant. They even dare to openly commit violence in front of the hospital. Aren't they afraid of legal sanctions? Don't you know? This morning, a young man was beaten up in front of the hospital. It seems that it was also done by these people. They're really arrogant. The hospital doesn't even care. How can they care? They did it outside the hospital. Moreover, when the hospital's security guards rushed to the door, these hooligans had already run away after beating up people. Where can we find them? The police came today, but the beaten people seem to be deliberately hiding from the police. I really want to help that young man and beat these hooligans away. In broad daylight, these bastards are too arrogant. Tan Xiao's moves were extremely fast. His fists hit the flesh, and his figure was lightning fast. Although he only used 10% of his strength, he still knocked down nearly 20 youths in just a few seconds. Even the man with some martial arts background was seriously injured by him. He vomited blood and retreated. The young hooligans curled up on the ground and wailed in pain. Each and every one of them was extremely miserable. Steel pipes and knives could be seen everywhere around them. At this moment, the whole scene became dead silent. The surrounding onlookers opened their eyes wider than copper bells, and subconsciously raised their hands to cover their mouths. Shock. Each of them could feel their heart beating faster, and they could feel their bodies becoming weak. The feeling of horror was like monstrous waves beating against the shore. Chapter 124. Tan Xiao stood among the young thugs who were rolling on the ground. His eyes flashed with a cold glint, and the hatred in his heart had yet to completely dissipate. Therefore, under the watchful eyes of the public, he stepped on the 2 wrist bones of these young thugs one by one and broke them. You're just a bunch of social vermin who bully the weak and fear the strong. Since you're not afraid of the sanction of the law, then I'll use violence to curb violence. I'll make you unable to pick up a weapon for the rest of your life, and let you spend the rest of your life in regret. The broken bones of more than 20 young thugs made their bodies tremble violently, and their cries turned louder. Some of them were timid and begged, but Tan Xiao seemed to have not heard them. The 30-year-old man's eyes revealed a fearful look. He didn't run away after being injured, but looked at Tan Xiao with a vigilant expression. However, after seeing Tan Xiao's ruthless and merciless performance, he was afraid. He even regretted that he didn't turn around and run away just now. You don't come here. The man subconsciously stepped back and looked at Tan Xiu, who was walking step by step towards him as he involuntarily shouted. Tan Xiu coldly smiled. He instantly dashed forward and appeared in front of the man. His palm fiercely slapped the man's face. The man's cheekbone was broken, and his body flew out upside down. Tan Xiu also did the same thing as he stepped on the fainted man's wrists and broke them. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. But if people offend me, I'll pay them back tenfold. This was Tan Xiu's principle, and also his bottom line. Every dragon has a reverse scale, and his mother, Su Lingyun, was Tan Xiu's reverse scale. If anyone dared to scold his mother, he couldn't wait to kill that person. But now someone actually injured his mother, which really angered Tan Xiu. Suddenly, Tan Xiu's expression moved. He was keenly aware that 5 or 6 security guards rushed out of the hospital with electric batons. He didn't stop and directly slipped into the crowd and quickly disappeared outside the hospital. Chen Tao was the security captain of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. He was very angry today because some thugs appeared near the hospital early in the morning and even injured an injured person. However, when he received a report that more than 20 hooligans were surrounding a teenager outside the hospital, he immediately rushed out of the hospital with the hospital's security guards. What happened? Chen Tao stared at the scene in front of him with his mouth agape. A huge question mark appeared on his head. Didn't they say that there were more than 20 hooligans surrounding and attacking a young man? Why were there more than 20 hooligans rolling around on the ground? An old man in his 70s cautiously approached Chen Tao's group and whispered, "Are you the security guards of the Chinese medical hospital? Fortunately, you came late. Otherwise, there would be no one to teach them a lesson for their parents." That young man was really amazing. He had beaten more than 20 bad guys to the ground by himself. This old man has seen a lot of martial arts movies, but none of them are as exciting as today's scene. Chen Tao pointed at the ruffians on the ground in disbelief and shouted, "You mean they were injured by a young man?" The old man nodded and said, "Of course. All of us are nearby, and our eyes are sharp. He single-handedly beat up all the hooligans who were armed with weapons. Furthermore, that young man said it well. Since these hooligans are not afraid of the police, then he will use violence to curb violence and solve these scourges and malignant tumors for society." Chen Tao shook his head and said, "Old man, please don't joke around. Even if one person is powerful, how could he possibly beat more than 20 people? Did that young man have a helper?" A middle-aged woman nearby said with a smile. "What helper? It was indeed that young man who beat them. You don't know. He's simply the reincarnation of Bruce Lee. It's like he's possessed by the god of war. His speed is too fast, his strength is too great, and his fighting prowess is too amazing. If your hospital's security guards can be half of his, no, 1/10 of his strength, you can maintain the safety of the entire hospital by yourself." Chen Tao's forehead was full of black lines. Subsequently, he inquired and finally confirmed that the person who had seriously injured more than 20 hooligans was indeed a young man. After asking clearly, since he couldn't find the young man, Chen Tao fiercely kicked one of the wailing and howling youths and then loudly ordered, "Take them to the hospital. After all, they're injured, and our hospital can't just watch them die. But ask them if they have money. If they don't have money, they can't treat these social vermin." Alrighty. The other security guards were also impolite as they grabbed those hooligans like dead dogs and dragged them into the hospital. At the president's office, Li Hongji's smoking addiction was aroused. He rummaged through the drawers and found an unopened pack of cigarettes. He took it out and lit it up as he happily took a few puffs. In his mind, he was thinking that the Chinese medical hospital was able to win over such a powerful doctor like Tan Xiu. It would cause a sensation in the entire medical circle in Star City. No, it's not just the Star City medical circle, but the entire country's medical circle. Won't our Star City Chinese medical hospital rise to fame? This old man has been staying in this hospital for most of my life, and I finally made a contribution to the Chinese medical hospital. Li Hongji smiled as he thought about it. His face was glowing as if he had met the second spring of his life. Knock knock. The office door was knocked. Li Hongji looked up and saw Long Jingyu standing at the door. He was immediately surprised and said, "Jingyu, why did you come here?" Long Jingyu entered the office and said with a forced smile, "Uncle Li, you old man, you only said half of what you wanted to say. How could I not come here personally? You asked me about Tan Xiu on the phone, and said that he made your junior brother lose face in Jingmen Island. I was afraid that you would make things difficult for Tan Xiu in order to avenge your junior brother." Li Hongji was at a loss whether he had to laugh or cry as he said, "Am I that narrow-minded? Besides, I've clearly understood the matter. It was my junior brother's skill that was inferior to others. He couldn't cure the patient's strange disease, and instead he looked at Tan Xiu's young age and ridiculed him. Sins committed by heaven can be forgiven, but the sins committed by oneself can't be avoided. How can I make things difficult for Tan Xiu for this matter? You stinking brat, you're looking down on your Uncle Li, aren't you?" Long Jingyu quickly said with a smile. "So that's what happened. It was me who was narrow-minded and thought badly of the noble Uncle Li. In order to apologize to you, I'll go home tonight and steal a bottle of the best quality Wuliangye that my dad has treasured for more than 20 years. Treasured for more than 20 years? The best quality Wuliangye? My old classmate actually has the best quality Wuliangye that he has treasured for more than 20 years? Li Hongji angrily said. That bastard Long Hanwen. He used to deceive me with trash wine before? No. Sigh. Nephew Jingyu, I really have to trouble you with this matter. As long as you can steal it for me, Tan Xiu's expenses in our hospital will be waived. Also, I'll assign a nurse to take care of his mother." After saying that, his eyes suddenly turned as he chuckled and said, "If you can help me steal 2 bottles, I'll use the highest standard treatment in our hospital to hire Tan Xiu to be our hospital's Chinese medicine doctor. I'll give him a doctor's qualification certificate and let him take charge in the outpatient department. How about it?" Long Jingyu didn't realize it just now. Upon hearing Li Hongji's words, his eyes stared wide as he said with astonishment, "Tan Xiu has medical skills? You're not joking, are you?" Li Hongji snappily said, "Do I look like I'm joking with you? Not only does Tan Xiu have medical skills, but he's also absolutely a brilliant one. My junior brother and I are the descendants of a divine doctor. Yet he was able to cure a strange disease that both of us couldn't. Don't you think he's amazing?" Long Jingyu stared blankly for a long time before he forced a smile and said, "Uncle Li, I already knew that Tan Xiu is amazing, but I didn't expect him to be so amazing to the point of defying the heavens. I haven't known him for a long time, and I haven't been in contact with him many times. But every time I see him or hear his legends, I find that he's really unfathomable. There's almost nothing he can't do. President, there's an accident." Outside the office, a doctor in a large white coat rushed into the office. Li Hongji frowned and shouted in a deep voice, "What are you panicking for? Get the hell out of here. Knock on the door." The doctor's face froze and immediately revealed a frightened expression as he obediently walked out of the door. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Li Hongji struck while the iron was hot and said, "Long Jingyu, do you agree or not? If you don't have these 2 bottles, Tan Xiu's matter can't be solved." "I agree." Long Jingyu gritted his teeth and nodded. Although his father only had 2 bottles of the best quality Wuliangye, he would immediately tell him after he stole it. Regardless of what means his father used to snatch it back or drink it together, it had nothing to do with him. Li Hongji was in a good mood after his evil plan succeeded. After hearing the knocking sound, he waved his hand and said, "Come in. Tell me, what's the matter? What made you so flustered like this?" The doctor hurriedly said, "President, I was just about to go out to handle some affairs, but I found more than 20 hooligans besieging a young man at the hospital's entrance. That young man seems to be Tan Xiu, Mr. Tang. I saw him when I went to the inpatient department with you." Li Hongji and Long Jingyu's complexion greatly changed at the same time. Both of them cared about Tan Xiu very much. Almost without much hesitation, they hurriedly ran outside the door. "Have you notified the security team? Captain Chun has already led the security team there. But don't be anxious, President. I haven't finished talking yet." The doctor in white coat called out. While running outside, Li Hongji said, "Let's go and talk." The doctor in white coat forced a smile. Inwardly, he was shocked that the president cared so much about Tan Xiao. He closely followed Li Hongji and said, "President, I just happened to see the fight outside just now. More than 20 hooligans besieged Mr. Tang, but they were seriously injured by Mr. Tang, while he was unscathed. More than 20 injured hooligans have been taken to the hospital by the hospital's security guards. They said that they will be treated." Chapter 125. What? Li Hongji thought that there was something wrong with his hearing. His footsteps came to a halt as he stared at the doctor without blinking and angrily said, "Are you kidding me? Tang Xiao alone was able to severely injure more than 20 hooligans? Is there something wrong with your brain? Or are you talking in your sleep?" The doctor forced a smile and said, "President, even if you give me 100 guts, I still won't dare to deceive you. I've seen it with my own eyes. Mr. Tang's martial arts is very powerful. He really injured more than 20 thugs. Those guys are the ones who attacked our hospital's entrance this morning." Li Hongji angrily said, "Nonsense. How can someone fight more than 20 people? Do you think that 2 fists can't fight against 4 hands is just a joke?" Long Jingyu forced a smile at the side and said, "Uncle Li, maybe what he said is true. As far as I know, Tan Xiao does no martial arts, and his strength is not low." Li Hongji stared blankly for a moment as he said with an inconceivable expression, "Even if he knows martial arts and is very powerful, how can he fight more than 20 people? Even those retired Special Forces soldiers can't do it, right? Even the biggest martial school in Star City, the Rising Dragon Martial School's master, Jiang Feng, can't do it, right?" Long Jingyu calmly said, "If Tan Xiao's medical skills are not better than your junior brothers, do you think that Tan Xiao's medical skills are better than your junior brothers?" Li Hongji was speechless. Long Jingyu looked at the doctor and asked, "Where is Tan Xiao now?" The doctor said, "After Mr. Tang injured those people, he quickly left. I don't know where he is now." Long Jingyu nodded as he took out his mobile and dialed Tan Xiao's number. "What's up?" Tan Xiao's cold voice came from the phone. Long Jingyu said, "Tan Xiao, I'm at Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. I heard that you injured more than 20 thugs who besieged you outside the hospital. Is it true?" "Yes," Long Jingyu angrily said. "Who are they? Let me help you." Tan Xiao directly refused. "I'll take care of this matter. Thank you for your kindness." Long Jingyu listened to the busy tone from the phone, and a wry smile appeared on his handsome face. He really admired Tan Xiao's personality. Star City Rich and Powerful Entertainment Club. In the luxuriously decorated KTV private room, although the card game had resumed, Tai Long was clearly somewhat absent-minded. His luck was no longer as good as before. "Old Tai, I think you should stop letting your imagination run wild. If it was a blessing, it wasn't a curse. If it was a curse, it couldn't be avoided. What you need to do now is to be prepared. If the person investigating you has a strong background, then you must run immediately. If the opponent was weak, then he would play with them. The slightest movement of the wind, and the slightest feeling of danger will mess up your mind. When trouble comes, you will be flustered," a middle-aged man said indifferently as he smoked a cigarette. Another person also said, "That's right. If the opponent is very strong, there is nothing we can do. But if the opponent is ordinary, even if he's on the same level as you, the few of us together can trample him to death. So you must be prepared in advance. If the enemy doesn't move, we won't move. If the enemy moves, we'll move first." Tai Long nodded with a pensive expression and said, "What you said makes sense. It seems like I'm thinking too much. You have offended a lot of people these days, so you need to be vigilant all the time. Otherwise, you might be stabbed in the back one day." After saying that, Tai Long threw the cards in his hand on the table. He looked at a middle-aged man and said, "I've prepared 4 million yuan. I'm ready to take over the parking lot project near the Star Garden Square. Are you interested in doing it with me?" Ring, ring, ring. Just as Tai Long's voice fell, his mobile phone rang again. Tai Long's brows wrinkled. He grabbed the phone and answered, "What's up?" After a moment, Tai Long suddenly stood up from the chair. A shocked expression appeared on his face as he shouted, "Are you fucking lying to me? One person? One person seriously injured more than 20 of you? Are you stupid or am I stupid? What? Really? I got it." After hanging up the phone, Tai Long looked at the three people with a livid expression and said with a sinking tone, "Gentlemen, I'm afraid I've really provoked some trouble this time. Moreover, I'm afraid I really didn't expect this trouble." "What kind of trouble?" One of them's expression moved and immediately asked. Tai Long said, "Do you still remember that I told you that I went to a restaurant to eat yesterday? The result was that the other party didn't even vacate the table for me, so I injured the owner and staff of the restaurant. And smashed the restaurant? I couldn't vent the hatred in my heart, so I sent some people to wait at the entrance of the Chinese medical hospital. As long as they come out, I'll beat them up. Just now more than 20 of my subordinates were all severely injured." "What's their background?" "I don't know." Tai Long forced a smile as he shook his head and said, "Regardless of their background, the trouble this time is not small. Do you believe it? The one who seriously injured more than 20 of my men turned out to be a young man of about 20 years old. It's really strange. How could one person seriously injure more than 20 people? Could it be that your men lied? Even if it's a retired Special Forces soldier, even if it's the Rising Dragon Martial School's schoolmaster Jiang Feng, they wouldn't be able to do it, right?" Tai Long shook his head and said, "My men don't dare to lie to me, because they know the consequences of lying to me." The other three men looked at each other in dismay. A feeling of dread also rose in their hearts. If the other party also sent more than 20 people to beat all of Tai Long's men, they might not think that there was any problem. But the key was that the other party was only one person. One person. Seriously injuring more than 20 people. Even the reborn martial god could barely achieve this, right? "Old Tai, I just remembered that I have something else to do. Let's call it a day. If you need anything, just call me. Also, we'll talk about the parking lot later. I should also go back. My wife has been making a lot of noise recently, so I have to go back and appease her. Old Tai, we're all friends. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. I don't have enough people to play cards. It's meaningless for me to stay here. I'll go with you." Soon. In the huge KTV private room, only the gloomy Tai Long and his two trusted men were left. Looking at the backs of his three so-called friends leaving, Tai Long fiercely grabbed a wine bottle and smashed it to pieces with a face full of anger. However, his heart was as clear as a mirror. These so-called friends were, in fact, a group of people who had their own interests entangled with each other. They were using each other to seek benefits from each other. Once someone was really in trouble, it was just like the saying, "When a disaster strikes, everyone flies." A group of people who bully the weak and fear the strong. They have no morals. Tai Long cursed. He turned around and walked to the sofa to sit down. Things had already gone out of his control. He needed to think about what to do next. First, personal safety. He must ensure his own safety. Otherwise, if he encountered that vicious and merciless little bastard, he was afraid that if he didn't die, he would be crippled. Second, investigate the other party's identity. As the saying goes, know the enemy and know yourself, and you will always be victorious. The current situation was that he was in the light while the enemy was in the dark. He must figure out the enemy's identity. Only then could he prepare to fight or flee. Third, prepare to fight in advance. It was too late to mend the pen after the sheep is lost. His three friends tonight were all experienced people who had been struggling in the society for decades. They had meticulous minds and were as cunning as foxes. Their proposal was absolutely not wrong. He must be vigilant and ready to fight. Tai Long raised his hand to touch his chin. The light in his eyes was even brighter. He was able to build such a big family business with his bare hands. He was also a brave and resourceful person. After thinking for a moment, he grabbed his phone and dialed a friend's number. "Daji, I heard that you have some friendship with the people from the Rising Dragon Martial School. I don't know if you can help me build a bridge? Meet the other party? I have some matters that I want to ask them for help. Don't worry. You will benefit from it. It's settled. I'll treat you to lunch." Let's go to the Long's dining hall. Tai Long put away his phone. The smile on his face receded like a tide. He looked at his two subordinates and spoke in a deep voice. Call some people to wait outside the Long's dining hall. Also, tell them to bring their weapons. In case the situation changes, we'll immediately act. You two must also bring your weapons with you. Humph. There are so many people who practice martial arts these days, but this father has never heard of anyone who can block a gun. The two tall and sturdy big men looked at each other with a ferocious expression on their faces. They heavily nodded and walked out of the box's door. At Star City Chinese Medical Hospital, two police cars roared and stopped in the parking lot in front of the hospital building. A valiant and formidable-looking Cheng Xuemei stepped out of the police car. Chen Tao, the captain of the hospital's security team near the parking lot, hurriedly rushed over. Captain Chen, we meet again. Cheng Xuemei paced a few steps forward as she spoke with an expressionless face. Chen Tao smiled apologetically and said, Captain Cheng, I didn't expect that you would grace us with your presence again. May I know what's the purpose of your visit to our Chinese medical hospital? Cheng Xuemei frowned and said, Don't play dumb with me. The nearby police station has received a report that more than 20 youths are besieging a young man outside the hospital. The situation is very similar to the one in the morning. The one who was beaten in the morning doesn't dare to show up. What about the young man who was beaten just now? Our bureau attaches great importance to this thug incident. I hope you can cooperate with us and bring those thugs to justice. Chen Tao had received the hospital leader's warning that he must not reveal Tan Xiu's identity. Therefore, he lied through his teeth and said with a hollow smile, Officer Cheng, I think you're mistaken, right? Our place is calm and tranquil. Where did those youths besiege someone just now? You. Cheng Xuemei glared at Chen Tao as she shouted with a stern voice, Captain Chen, you know our identity. You should also be aware of the consequences of deceiving us. If our criminal police wants to investigate something clearly, no matter how you conceal it, we can get the information we want. Chapter 126. Chen Tao forced a smile and spread out his hands. Officer Cheng, it's not that I don't want to say it, but I really can't. You're a police officer, so please don't make things difficult for us, the gatekeepers. Besides, I can tell you responsibly that the young man you said was besieged was not injured at all. He's safe and sound now. It's just a small misunderstanding. It'll be fine after we explain it. Cheng Xuemei turned around and winked at a criminal police member, saying, Captain Chen, I don't know what kind of difficulties you have, but I still hope you can tell me the truth. We're the criminal police, and we have the responsibility to maintain social order. We also have the responsibility to severely punish those black sheep with the law. Chen Tao was silent for a moment and slowly said, Officer Cheng, if you really want to know the cause and effect of the matter, then go and investigate it. But I'll tell you in advance that no matter what the result of your investigation is, it has nothing to do with me. After that, he no longer paid attention to Cheng Xuemei and turned to walk toward the security room at the gate. His heart was as clear as a mirror. It was actually very easy for Cheng Xuemei to investigate the truth of the matter. However, since the superior had given the order, it would be somewhat difficult for the criminal police unit to investigate Tan Xiu's identity. 10 minutes later, several criminal police returned to Cheng Xuemei, but the expression on their faces was very strange. One of them said, Captain Cheng, we've investigated it clearly. There was indeed a young man who was besieged by more than 20 youths. But the result was not that the young man was injured, but, seeing that the member was hesitating, Cheng Xuemei immediately asked in a deep voice, But what? Finish it. The criminal police member forced a wry smile and said, The one who was seriously injured was not that young man, but those more than 20 youths. To be precise, it was that young man alone who seriously injured more than 20 youths. Right now, those injured gangsters are still receiving treatment in the hospital. Are you kidding me? Cheng Xuemei's eyes were wide open with disbelief written all over her face. The criminal police member helplessly said, I'm really not kidding. This is the result of the investigation. Unless all the people we've investigated have been given confessions. Of course, the possibility is almost zero. 1 against 20? The corners of Cheng Xuemei's mouth twitched a few times, and the shock in her heart surged like a tide. Strange things happened every year, but this year, there were especially many. She then thought of Tan Xiu, a high school student who could kill a thug who broke into the school. She also thought of the murder at the repair factory some time ago. Sigh. Cheng Xuemei sighed inwardly and asked, "Have you investigated the identities of those 20 injured gangsters?" The criminal police said, "I've already inquired about them. Almost all of them have criminal records. They are bad youths in society. They gather together all day to fight and do a lot of bad things. In addition, they are the subordinates of the big boss of Rivers and Mountains Real Estate Company, Tai Long." Tai Long? The guy who has been involved in many murder cases, but no evidence has been found? Cheng Xuemei raised her eyebrows and asked. "That's right. It's him," the criminal police member said with a sinking tone. Cheng Xuemei sneered and said, "Since he's involved in this matter, then let's go to the Rivers and Mountains Real Estate Company now. I want to hear Tai Long's explanation." Rivers and Mountains Real Estate Company. It was located in the vicinity of Chaonan Road in the Star City Economic Development Zone. The transportation here was convenient. It was a high-rise building with more than 10 floors, and all of it was owned by the Rivers and Mountains Real Estate Company. At the entrance of the imposing building, security guards were patrolling the passers-by in high spirits. Occasionally, beautiful women would pass by, and they would gather together with perverted faces to gossip about them. 2 tall and sturdy men rushed out from the building. Their faces were fierce, and their waists were bulging. Their cold eyes swept around from time to time. "Brother Hu, Brother Pang." Upon seeing the 2 big men, the 4 security guards immediately puffed out their chests and respectfully called out. The 2 of them didn't look at the 4 security guards as they strode toward the direction of the parking lot. They had important things to do, and the big boss was waiting for them. However, just as the 2 of them walked tens of meters away from the parking lot, they heard an angry shout coming from behind. "Hey, who the fuck are you? This is our Rivers and Mountains Real Estate Company. Outsiders are not allowed to trespass without permission. Show me your employee card." "I'm fucking fucker. Did you hear me?" The person who was about to enter the Rivers and Mountains Real Estate Company was Tan Xiu. After he knew Tai Long's identity, he immediately rushed here. He needed to make Tai Long pay the price. He needed to let him know how miserable the consequences of hurting his mother would be. Facing the 4 security guards' aggressive interrogation and even angry reprimand, his answer was simple and direct. His huge fist directly smashed on the face of that angry security guard. Bang bang. That security guard screamed as he was smashed and heavily fell on the hard ground. "Bastard. Are you here to cause trouble?" The other 3 people roared and pounced at him. Tan Xiu coldly smiled. His hand was as fast as lightning. His fist smashed on the faces of the 3 people, without any fancy moves. He looked at them flying backward as he strode toward the entrance of the Rivers and Mountains Real Estate Company. In the parking lot, the 2 tall and sturdy men looked at each other before they turned around and ran toward the entrance of the company. Both of them were Tai Long's confidants. They were also the number 1 and number 2 thugs. In terms of fighting, any one of them could beat 4 to 5 experts. Not to mention, they had guns on their waists. If they really couldn't beat this young man, they could just open fire. At this moment, they had already guessed Tan Xiu's identity. He was the one who had injured more than 20 of their boss men at the entrance of the Chinese medical hospital. On the first floor of the Rivers and Mountains Real Estate Company, Tan Xiu strode to the front desk. With a grim expression, he looked at the 2 women whose faces had turned pale and asked with a sinking tone, "Where's Tai Long?" The 2 women quickly shook their heads. One of the women said, "We don't know. Boss went out this morning and didn't come back." "Not here?" Tan Xiu frowned and said with a sinking tone, "Give me his cell number. Also, which floor is his office?" 1012th floor. The woman looked at the 4 fainted security guards outside the door, and said with fear and trepidation. Tan Xiu shouted with a sinking tone, "Give me his number." The woman said with a sullen face, "Sir, we really don't know boss's cell number. If you want to ask this question, You need to look for our manager. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and immediately left. He took the elevator to the 12th floor. Soon he found the office marked with the word General Manager. Kicking the door open, Tan Xiu walked in and sized up the room. Then footsteps came from behind him. Who are you? Tan Xiu turned around and looked at the slender young woman with heavy makeup. He suddenly snorted coldly and walked to the boss's chair inside the desk and sat down. Then he said indifferently, You don't need to know who I am. You call Tai Long now and tell him that his creditor is here. Tell him to get his ass back here immediately. You dare to scold our boss? Are you tired of living? The young woman angrily shouted. Tan Xiu said with indifference, I'll tell you again. I'll give you half a minute to make the call. If I don't get a satisfactory answer, I'll throw you down from the 12th floor. Call him quickly. The young woman looked at the gloomy expression of Tan Xiu. After hesitating for a moment, she still said with anger, You have guts. Just wait for me. I'll call my boss now. Be careful, he'll come back and tidy you up. Jackals of the same lair. Looking at the young woman's expression, Tan Xiu secretly sneered inside. At the Long's dining hall, Tai Long sent his 2 trusted subordinates to go back to arrange things, and then hurried over. He wanted to invite the people from the Rising Dragon Martial School, so the standard was very high. Ring ring ring, his cell phone rang. Tai Long quickly took it out. He thought that it was his old friend, Sun Daji, who called. But when he saw the number on the screen, he found out that it was the company's secret technique. It was that little devil who could bite people. Because it was a serious matter, he looked a bit impatient. After the call was connected, he said with a sinking tone, I have something to do now. If you don't have anything important, wait for me to go back first. Boss, something happened. A bastard broke into our company and is now sitting on your boss's chair. He told me to call you and tell you that your creditor is here. He wants you to come back to pay the debt. Creditor? Tai Long stared blankly and angrily cursed. Which bastard dares to find trouble for me, Tai Long? This father has a lot of creditors. Who dares to brazenly come to this father's office? You. His words came to a screeching halt. In his mind, he recalled the purpose of inviting the people from the Rising Dragon Martial School. After being silent for a moment, he asked, Who is the other party? What's his name? The female secretary said in a low voice, It's a young man. I don't know his name. Tai Long angrily shouted, If you know, you won't ask. After a while, the female secretary replied, He said his name. If you want to know it, you must come back immediately. Wait until he beat you until you can't take care of yourself. Then he will naturally tell you. Bastard. Tai Long hung up the phone as he fiercely cursed. I say, big brother Tai, what made you so angry? You asked me to help you invite people, and I've invited them. The 4 of them are the instructors of the Rising Dragon Martial School, and their martial arts are very powerful. Sun Daji was a chubby and fair-skinned middle-aged man. His small eyes were squinted into slits, and from time to time, a glint flashed. Tai Long saw Sun Daji as well as the 4 robust men behind him. His hope immediately rose as he strode forward to greet them and said, Old friend, I really have to thank you this time. We'll talk about this later. I have an important matter that needs the help of these 4 experts from the Rising Dragon Martial School. Can we talk in private? All right. One of the middle-aged men from the Rising Dragon Martial School nodded and said, Sun Daji didn't want to get involved in the matter between Tai Long and the Rising Dragon Martial School, so he said with a smile, You talk. I still have other things to do, so I can't accompany you. Big brother Tai, I'll be waiting for your call. All right. Tai Long nodded. Chapter 127. The Long's dining hall's environment was beautiful, and the decoration style was majestic and imposing. Inside the magnificent hall, Tai Long greeted the 4 instructors of the Rising Dragon Martial School to take their seats. How should we address the 4 of you? Tai Long narrowed his eyes, carefully sizing up the 4 people. You should know. The Rising Dragon Martial School, which was the most powerful force in the entire Star City, had a great reputation. The dojo master, Jiang Feng, was extremely righteous, and his attainments in martial arts had long since reached the pinnacle. He had traveled extensively and established an illustrious reputation for himself. After he returned to his hometown in Star City 20 years ago, he personally founded the Rising Dragon Martial School. After 20 years of development, the current Rising Dragon Martial School was full of talented people. Many martial artists in Star City came from the Rising Dragon Martial School. Tai Long was very clear that since he was able to be an instructor in the Rising Dragon Martial School, his skill was absolutely terrifying. I am Fei Chong, and the three of them are my junior brothers. The robust man who spoke before said in a deep voice. Tai Long slowly nodded and said, Instructor Fei, I entrusted Sun Daji to help me contact you. I want to discuss a business deal with you. I don't know if you're interested? Fei Chong said lightly. Tell me what it is first. Tai Long said. I recently offended a powerful character. The other party's skill is very terrifying. More than 20 of my men, who are often involved in fights, were seriously injured by the other party, and are now receiving treatment in Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. Therefore, I want to hire you to help me deal with him. The price is negotiable. More than 20. Seriously injured by a single person? Fei Chong's expression changed slightly, and his three junior brothers also revealed looks of disbelief. Although they looked down on those hooligans who fought all day, it was undeniable that these guys with rich fighting experience were quite difficult to deal with. A single person was able to severely injure more than 20 people. The other party's martial arts attainments were very high. Fei Chong truthfully said, if it was our dojo master, he might have been able to achieve this with some effort. But the four of us can't. None of us had the confidence to beat more than 20 hooligans. Tai Long was dumbfounded. If even they couldn't do it, then who should he find to take care of that brat? Did he really have to use his last resort and use a gun? Fei Chong said, we may not be that guy's match if we fight him alone, but we can definitely cripple him if the four of us join forces. However, there are risks involved. Perhaps the four of us will also be injured. As for the price, Tai Long was happy in his heart and immediately said, 1 million. Raising his thumb, Fei Chong praised. Boss Tai is a straightforward person, so we won't put on an act anymore. Give us that person's information and we'll deal with him. If we can't cripple him, we won't take a single cent. Tai Long forced a smile and said, I don't need to give you the information. That guy is now in my company's office. He's already arrogant and despotic. So arrogant? Fei Chong and the other three looked surprised. Tai Long helplessly said, that's right. The other party was too arrogant, to the point where he considered everyone beneath him. Therefore, I hope that the four of you can help me deal with him. Fei Chong said, let's go now. Rivers and Mountains Real Estate Company, General Manager Office. Tan Xiao, who was sitting on Tai Long's desk, looked at the furious woman in front of him. He waved his hand and said, all right, there's nothing for you to do here. Get lost. The woman glared fiercely at Tan Xiao, then turned around and walked out of the room. She wasn't clear about Tan Xiao's background, so she didn't dare to be rash. After all, Tan Xiao wasn't even afraid of her boss. She was just Tai Long's secretary and plaything. She simply couldn't afford to offend him. However, when she walked out of the room, she saw the two tall and sturdy men rushing over. She immediately revealed an ecstatic expression as she loudly shouted, how come you're only here now? Some bastard dared to curse the boss, and he's now in the boss's office. Humph. The two tall and sturdy men dashed into the office and looked at Tan Xiao, who was sitting on the boss's chair. One of them shouted in a stern voice, you stand up. You can't sit on that seat. Tan Xiao said with a sneer, can Tai Long sit on that seat? That's right. The tall and sturdy man coldly smiled. The way he looked at Tan Xiao was as if he was looking at a lamb that was about to be slaughtered. Tan Xiao slowly stood up and looked at the two men's waists. His eyes suddenly narrowed into slits as he calmly said, you guys really aren't good people. Since that's the case, I don't have to worry about making a move. The two tall and sturdy men looked at each other as a sneer appeared on their faces. In an instant, they pulled out their pistols from their waists and aimed their black muzzles at Tan Xiao. Brat, we know your martial arts are powerful. But no matter how powerful you are, can you be faster than our bullets? Humph, you're just a fledgling brat who doesn't know shit. You think you can provoke anyone just because you have some skills in your hands? Today, we'll let you know how miserable the consequences of offending Brother-Long will be. The tall and sturdy man laughed wildly as a crazed expression flashed in his eyes. Murder. He had done it before, and not just once. What he liked the most was to see his enemies fall in a pool of blood, begging and struggling miserably. Every time he saw such a scene, he felt as if he just drank a few mouthfuls of ice-cold beer in the hottest days of the year. The heavily made-up female secretary appeared behind the two tall and sturdy men at this moment. A gloating expression hung on her face as she looked at Tan Xiao and said with a sneer, "What do you think? Are you dumbfounded now? You're just an idiot. You didn't even inquire about our rivers and mountains real estate's background, and just foolishly came here to die. But if you kneel down and beg for mercy, and call us a few nice words, maybe we'll spare your life. You also need to be taught a lesson." Tan Xiao coldly snorted. He instantly appeared in front of the two tall and sturdy men. His wrists flipped and instantly grabbed their wrists. Almost without much strength, he easily twisted and broke their wrists. The guns in their hands instantly fell down. Tan Xiao's figure instantly appeared at the door. After closing the door, Tan Xiao looked at the two men with a faint smile and said, "Now you only have two choices. The first one is to jump from the window, and the second one is to be carried out from here. Which one do you want to choose?" The two tall and sturdy men's wrists were broken, and the guns in their hands fell to the ground. The heart-wrenching pain almost made the two men scream. Thick sweat appeared on their foreheads, and a horrified look appeared on their faces. The way they looked at Tan Xiao was as if they were looking at a terrifying Grim Reaper. Guns. The two men were also ruthless people. Seeing that Tan Xiao did not take away their guns, they instantly squatted down and picked up the guns with their other hand. The muzzles were once again aimed at Tan Xiao. Bang bang. This sound was not the sound of gunshots, but the sound of Tan Xiao's fists heavily pounding on their faces. Along with the blooming of the peach blossom reflection, the two men were directly knocked out by Tan Xiao. "Aya!" An ear-piercing scream came from the woman with heavy makeup. She was like a frightened rabbit, her body shivering as she hid in the corner of the wall. A grim smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiao's mouth. He kicked the gun to the woman and said with a faint smile, "I'll give you a chance to live. Otherwise, I really don't mind throwing you down from here. Think about the consequences of me throwing you off the cliff. This is more than a dozen floors high in the air, and your body should fall head first. Just like a watermelon, pop. Don't kill me." The woman screamed with a face full of fear. Regret. It was like a viper biting her heart. She regretted that she jumped out to provoke Tan Xiao by relying on the two thugs of her boss. She regretted that she didn't run away earlier. "I won't kill you, but you have two choices." Tan Xiao said. "You have two choices. First, you pick up a pistol and shoot each of them twice. Remember, you can shoot anywhere except their hands and feet. Second, I'll throw you down from here. Alright, I'll give you half a minute. Give me your answer after you think about it." "Half a minute?" The woman's face turned pale. She looked at the two fainted burly men, and then at Tan Xiao's indifferent expression. She gritted her teeth and quickly made a choice in less than 10 seconds. She trotted to the side of a pistol, picked it up and aimed the muzzle at the four thighs, and then pulled the trigger. Bang! 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 4 shots. The bullets hit the four thighs, and blood instantly gushed out from the 4 bloody holes. The woman looked at Tan Xiao. She didn't even dare to point the muzzle at Tan Xiao and asked with a sullen face, "Can I go now?" Tan Xiao nodded and exclaimed, "It's said that the most poisonous woman's heart is the sting of a wasp's tail. I've seen it with my own eyes today. You've made a good choice. Every man for himself will be destroyed by heaven and earth. Drop the gun and you can go. Remember, you're the one who shot those 2 guys today. If this matter is reported to the police, I think you can go to jail for a few years." "I absolutely won't say even half a word," the woman said while trembling with fear. Tan Xiao waved his hand and said, "Then get the hell out of here. Remember, Get the hell out of here. Leave this bullshit rivers and mountains real estate, and get the hell out of Star City. Don't let me see you again for the rest of my life. I'll get the hell out of here. I'll get the hell out of here right away, the woman said resolutely and decisively. Although she was sarcastic and liked to bully others, she was also a smart person. How could she not see that Tai Long had provoked a ruthless character? Perhaps, this time, Tai Long would fall here. Even a martial arts expert with a gun couldn't beat this guy. Whoever provoked him was simply courting death. She had made up her mind to go to the property office to take a large sum of money, and then fly far away, never to return to Star City again. She even began to pray that she would never encounter this cruel and merciless god of death in front of her ever again. Tan Xiao looked at the two burly men who were hit by the bullets and woke up from the pain. He sneered and said, "When you were holding the gun, what did you say to me? My memory isn't good. Do you want to repeat it again?" Chapter 128. The two burly men were ashamed and indignant at the same time. At this moment, they almost cried out. They thought that victory was in their grasp. Tan Xiao was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered in front of them. But the wheel of fortune had turned, and the result was that they were beaten miserably. "Are you a human or a ghost?" One of the burly men resisted the heart-wrenching pain, as he asked with a face full of fear. Tan Xiao didn't want to talk nonsense with these two thugs. He swiftly broke their wrist bones, ensuring that they would never be able to hold anything with their hands again. Then he walked to the window. Police. What Tan Xiao hated the most was dealing with the police. In particular, under the cover of his divine sense, he found out that the people who came were from the criminal police unit. The leader was an old acquaintance, Zheng Xueme. For minutes, Tan Xiao silently calculated the time for the police to arrive here at the fastest speed. He had a plan in his heart. He fiercely slapped the burly man's face and said with a sinking voice, "Call Tai Long, tell him to go to the solitary cloud temple in the suburbs. Remember, don't tell him what happened to you. Otherwise, I'll immediately break your necks." The burly man's mouth was full of blood. But looking at Tan Xiao's murderous appearance, he didn't dare to disobey Tan Xiao's order. He indicated that he had a mobile phone in his pocket. After making Tan Xiao dial for him, he tried to calm his tone. After the phone was connected, he said, "Brother Long, I just received a report from my men. The young man who injured our brothers went to the solitary cloud temple. I'll rush there immediately. You also bring some people to meet me there." "All right." Tan Xiao decisively hung up the phone. His finger pressed on the burly man's sleeping acupoint. His technique was very peculiar. It could make these two burly men sleep for 2 days and 2 nights. Even if someone cut their flesh with a knife, they wouldn't wake up. Subsequently, Tan Xiao used his divine sense to search and quietly came to the building's monitoring room. The 3 people inside were not aware of it and directly knocked them out. After destroying the surveillance video, Tan Xiao smashed all the equipment and then quietly slipped away. He firmly believed, even if the 2 burly men woke up 2 days and 2 nights later and were investigated by the police, they would not give him up. Because people like them were definitely not clean. They might even try their best to avoid any questions from the police. Furthermore, the 2 of them weren't idiots. After they found out about Tai Long's fate, they wouldn't dare to sell themselves out. Otherwise, they would live in fear every day. After leaving the building, Tan Xiao stopped a taxi nearby and rushed to Solitary Cloud Temple. Solitary Cloud Temple. It was located in the middle of a large mountain in the Yuzhou Ridge. There were very few people here, and the temple rarely received any incense. In Tan Xiao's memory, there were only a few monks in the temple. He chose to stay there to avoid the eyes and ears of the police. Even though he didn't intend to kill Tai Long from the start, he still wanted him to suffer. His heart was filled with killing intent, but he couldn't start a massacre, because this matter could easily expose his identity. Today was a society governed by law. Although he was not afraid of doing illegal things, he would still get into trouble. Returning to modern times, what Tan Xiao wanted the most was to be able to accompany his mother, live a quiet life, and earnestly cultivate. One day in the future he would be able to return to the immortal world, kill his way to the peak, and make his enemies who had betrayed him pay a painful price. Rivers and Mountains Real Estate Company. Cheng Xuemei, along with 4 criminal police members, strode into the general manager's office. When they saw the scene inside the office, their complexion suddenly changed. As for the vice president who was accompanying them, a look of horror appeared on his face. What happened? Cheng Xuemei and the 4 criminal police members immediately controlled the scene. One of the criminal police members picked up 2 pistols from the ground and quickly checked the injuries of the 2 burly men. Then he said to Cheng Xuemei, "Captain Cheng, their injuries are very serious. Although their lives aren't in danger, if we don't treat them in time, I'm afraid they will bleed to death. In addition to the 2 gunshot wounds on their bodies, their wrists were cruelly broken. I estimate that they also have many fractures on their bodies." Cheng Xuemei's complexion was as gloomy as water as she said in a deep voice, "Collect the evidence and send them to the hospital. Vice General Manager Li, please contact Tai Long immediately. We have an important case that needs his cooperation." Vice General Manager Li immediately took out his mobile and dialed Tai Long's number. But the result disappointed him, because the call couldn't be connected. "I can't contact our boss." Cheng Xuemei asked in a deep voice. "How much do you know about your boss's whereabouts? What's going on with him today? Where did he go? Who did he meet with? Tell us everything you know." Vice General Manager Li forced a smile and said, "How could I know boss's whereabouts? If I can inquire about boss's whereabouts, maybe boss will suspect me of plotting something." Cheng Xuemei snorted coldly and said, "Your Rivers and Mountains Real Estate Company has such a major case, and your boss is also a suspect. We will definitely investigate clearly who the culprit is. This case is suspected of intentional wounding, and there were also firearms at the scene. It's very serious. If you can contact your boss, ask him to contact us immediately." "All right." Vice General Manager Li immediately nodded. Cheng Xuemei looked around and asked, "Vice General Manager Li, your company should have monitoring equipment, right? Take us there immediately. The culprit will definitely be captured by the surveillance camera. Please come with me," Vice General Manager Li immediately said. When everyone rushed to the monitoring room, the scene inside made them shocked. 3 unconscious staff members were lying on the ground like dead dogs. The monitoring equipment was smashed to pieces, and the video memory card was damaged beyond repair. It could no longer be used. Cheng Xuemei looked at Vice General Manager Li with disbelief and asked, "Such a big matter happened in your company. Don't tell me the other employees don't know about it?" Vice General Manager Li forced a smile and said, "I've heard about it before. It's said that a young man broke into our company. Not only did he injure our company's 4 security guards, but he also went to the general manager's office. I was busy with other things, so I didn't have time to deal with it. When I was done, you also arrived. As for the other employees, they didn't know that the young man broke in." Cheng Xuemei immediately asked, "Where are the 4 security guards? We need to ask them some questions." Vice General Manager Li's complexion slightly changed as he said, "They were sent to the hospital. I can send someone to accompany you there." "No need. Just tell us the address." Cheng Xuemei directly refused. After a long while, after Vice General Manager Li sent off Cheng Xuemei's group of 5, his obsequious smile suddenly changed. A bewildered glint flashed in his eyes as he pondered what kind of big shot the boss had offended. In just half a day, more than 20 of the boss's men were seriously injured and sent to the Star City Chinese Medical Hospital. He also sent someone to the hospital to handle the procedures and pay the fees. But now, the boss's 2 right-hand men, the most powerful thugs, were unexpectedly beaten and crippled in the boss's office. Who exactly was the culprit? Would the boss be able to withstand it this time? Also, where was the boss now? He naturally didn't dare to easily spread the news that he had offended someone and was being retaliated against. He even ordered the 4 injured security guards to keep their mouths shut. They must never cooperate with the police investigation. 2 hours later, Tan Xiao was hiding on the road leading to the solitary Cloud Temple. His feet stepped on the tree trunk as his body was completely hidden among the branches and leaves. His pitch-black eyes constantly swept the end of the road. They're coming. Tan Xiu's spirit was shaken. Through the gaps between the branches and leaves, he could clearly see 5 men quickly rushing towards this direction. Because it was a mountain road, they didn't drive and just walked. On the road, Tai Long was panting. Although he used to be a man who could fight and fight, but after living like a prince for many years, his physical condition was not as good as it used to be. On the contrary, Fei Chong's group of 4 at his side looked light as if they were walking on their feet without the slightest exhaustion. "4 brothers, my men haven't arrived yet. If we bump into that brat ahead of time, I'll have to trouble you to act. This time, I'll make sure that brat won't be able to return." Tai Long panted heavily as blue veins throbbed on his forehead as he bitterly shouted. Fei Chong said indifferently, "We've been paid to eliminate disasters. We understand this truth. But can you hurry up? We still have classes in the evening. If the master finds out that the 4 of us disappeared at the same time, he'll definitely suspect that we're taking private jobs outside. For your 1 million, we don't want to lose our current identity as coaches." Tai Long stopped his footsteps. He took out his mobile and said, "I'll call my men and ask them where they are. Our time is precious. Urge them to hurry up," Fei Chong said with dissatisfaction. Tai Long put on an obsequious smile. After he dialed the number, nobody answered. "What's going on?" Fei Chong, who stood at Tai Long's side, asked with furrowed brows. A bad premonition arose inside Tai Long's heart as he whispered, "I called my trusted men, but nobody answered. This was something that would never have happened in the past. I've asked them to ensure that their mobile phones must be on for 24 hours. If there's a call, they must answer it promptly." Fei Chong said with a cold voice. "What do you mean?" Tai Long said with a wry smile. "I suspect that something happened to them." "You're right. Something happened to them. Their ending is even more miserable than those guys I injured at the hospital's entrance. I used their lives to coerce them into deceiving you about the news of me being in the solitary cloud temple. Tai Long, there's a saying that good will be rewarded and evil will be punished. You've done too many evil deeds, and now your retribution has come." Tan Xiu quietly slipped down from the tree and appeared in front of Tai Long and Fei Chong's group of 5. Tai Long's complexion greatly changed. Disbelief burst out from his eyes as he involuntarily exclaimed, "How is this possible? My 2 subordinates have guns on them. How could you possibly hurt them?" Tan Xiu said with a sneer, "You're like a frog at the bottom of a well. I don't need to explain it to you. I won't kill you today. But you've injured my mother and several of my men. We'll settle this account." Today's 2nd chapter will be posted, followed by another chapter at noon and 6 p.m. Altogether, there will be 4 chapters with more than 12,000 words. I know that many brothers and sisters are waiting for Jing Yi to erupt. I ask brothers and sisters to let Jing Yi take a breather. Let Jing Yi watch the 4 chapters every day for a period of time. When she's completely recuperated, she'll continue to go all out. Also, I'm sure brothers and sisters will support me with subscriptions and monthly tickets. I'm very grateful. Chapter 129. With a flip of his hand, a sharp Mitsubishi Army knife appeared in Tan Xiu's hand as he sneered again and said, "I'll give you a choice. Do you want me to cut off your legs? Or do you want me to cut off your hands? Of course, you can also choose to let me cut off one of your legs or one of your hands." Tai Long subconsciously took a step back. Suddenly, he realized that there were 4 experts from the Rising Dragon Martial School around him. His hanging heart immediately went back to normal as he sneered and said, "What an arrogant brat. You think I can't do anything to you just because you can deal with my men? Have you heard of the Rising Dragon Martial School? These 4 are the instructors of the Rising Dragon Martial School. They are martial arts experts. I specially invited them to deal with you. If you know what's good for you, then apologize to me and we'll end this matter. Otherwise, I'll make you look good." Rising Dragon Martial School? This was the first time Tan Xiu heard the name of this martial school. He calmly shook his head and said, "I'm just a high school student. I've never heard of its name. The four of you, I hope you won't intervene in the grudge between me and Tai Long otherwise. I can't guarantee that you won't get hurt. Fei Chong took 2 steps forward as he coldly looked at Tan Xiao and said, You were hiding in the dark just now, so you should have heard what I said. We've received money from others to eliminate disasters. We've received Boss Tai's money, so we have to do things for him. I heard that you're an expert, and we're also martial artists. So we want to have a match with you. Tan Xiao shook his head as he coldly said, The most taboo thing for martial artists is to fight fiercely with each other. Practicing martial arts is to strengthen the body and protect the people around you. But you're not worthy to be a martial artist. It seems that your Rising Dragon Martial School is also not a good person. Since you insist on doing things your own way, I'll find some time to visit your martial school after I've dealt with you. Let's see if you have the chance. Fei Chong nodded to his 3 fellow apprentices as the 4 of them strode toward Tan Xiao. They didn't immediately launch an attack, but instead surrounded Tan Xiao, looking for flaws on Tan Xiao's body. Although their characters were not good, they understood the principle that in a fight between experts, the slightest bit of carelessness could lead to eternal damnation. Since Tan Xiao was able to injure more than 20 gangsters, they did not dare to take him lightly. Gang fight? With a look of disdain, Tan Xiao moved instantly. When he appeared in front of the man in front of him, the man only saw a blur before he saw a huge fist smashing into the bridge of his nose. Bang! The man raised his hands halfway before he let out a blood-curdling scream. Immediately after, he felt his chest hit hard. The huge force made his throat taste sweet, and as his body flew backward, he spat out a mouthful of blood. All of you are trash. Tan Xiao moved sideways to evade the fists and kicks of the other 2. His straightforward attacks easily knocked down the other 2. However, what surprised him was that Fei Chong's strength was quite strong. According to the current martial arts practitioners, although he had not reached the level of a martial arts master, he was not far from it. In time, if he could settle down and practice martial arts, he would definitely reach the peak in the future. You are no match for me. Tan Xiao flew up and continuously kicked Fei Chong, who was retreating in front of him. Although he only used 10% of his strength in each kick, it was still a few thousand pounds. Fei Chong could not dodge and could only block with his arms. However, his hard arm bones were broken into several pieces after a series of fierce kicks. Stop! Fei Chong rolled on the ground and avoided Tan Xiao's kick with great difficulty. Tan Xiao ignored him. He did not need to guess to know what Fei Chong was thinking. Fei Chong wanted to admit that they could not beat him, and hoped that this matter would end here. The friend of the enemy was the enemy. Since Fei Chong had been paid to eliminate a disaster, he had to accept the painful consequences of failure. Bang! Tan Xiao kicked his chest sideways. As Fei Chong's sternum broke, he did not hesitate to grab Fei Chong's arm and twisted it hard. Ah! The piercing pain made Fei Chong scream miserably. Tan Xiao slapped him to the ground and sneered. A loser should have the attitude of a loser. When you agreed to help Tai Long, you should have thought about the consequences of failure. I'll cripple each of your hands as a small lesson. If you dare to commit crimes again, I'll personally break your good legs and left hand. After saying that, he no longer paid attention to the 4 people who were screaming miserably. His eyes looked at Tai Long, who had fled dozens of meters away and was constantly looking back. Since you've come, it's impossible for you to leave unscathed. Tan Xiao shouted. His figure was as fast as lightning. In just a few breaths he had already appeared behind Tai Long. He forcefully punched Tai Long's back, sending him flying 6 or 7 meters away and heavily smashing him to the ground. What a fast speed! Although Fei Chong was wailing miserably, his consciousness was very clear. His eyes had never left Tan Xiao's figure. Although he knew that Tan Xiao's speed was extremely fast, he didn't expect it to be this fast. What he saw just now was only the afterimage left by Tan Xiao. He found it hard to believe that the human body could be this fast. Even a martial arts grandmaster couldn't do it. In addition, his heart was also full of regret. He regretted taking this private job. In the past, when he secretly took a private job behind the Master Jiang Feng's back, he already knew that this day would come. But he didn't expect that this day would come so fast. Moreover, he was defeated by a young man in his 20s. Tan Xiu strode to Tai Long's side. He reached out and picked him up from the ground. He ruthlessly slapped his face until his face turned into a pig's head. Then he twisted his hands and broke his legs. Finally, his foot stepped on Tai Long's head. He looked at Tai Long's wriggling body and coldly said, "Surname Tai, when you bring harm to others, have you ever thought that you will be harmed by others one day? Kill me if you have the guts." Tai Long was still somewhat unyielding. His forelimbs were broken, and he howled in pain, but he still roared loudly. The Mitsubishi Army knife in Tan Xiu's hand flashed, and cut off one of Tai Long's ears. Looking at the scene of blood gushing out, he sneered and said, "You're worthy to be called a man with iron bones. I like to torture a man like you. Let me hear it again. After listening to it, I'll have to think about it. Should I cut off your other ear? Or should I cut off your nose? Or maybe I should dig out your eyeballs. That's also a good choice." Scream. "What's the matter with you, tough guy?" Tai Long's head was stepped on by Tan Xiu, and he felt his ears were warm, especially when he saw the ear that was cut off in front of him. The unyielding spirit in his heart instantly vanished. He clearly saw one thing. Tan Xiu was too ruthless, too vicious. He was still young. He was only in his 40s, but he had already worked hard to accumulate a fortune of hundreds of millions. If he were to be killed by Tan Xiu now, the career and wealth he had worked hard for in the first half of his life would become a joke. It would become a wedding dress for others. He was unwilling. He was afraid of death. Listening to Tan Xiu's words, his heart was as cold as the frost in the 12th month. Cough, cough. I beg you to let me go. I'll promise you anything, and I'll never dare to offend you again." Tai Long begged. Tan Xiu removed his foot from Tai Long's face and lifted him up again. He sneered and said, "Beg me? You injured my mother, injured my men, and even arrogantly sent people to block my people outside the hospital. Why didn't you think of begging me at that time?" "I was wrong. I beg you to forgive me." Tai Long coughed up a mouthful of blood. He fearfully looked at Tan Xiu and begged. Tan Xiu coldly snorted and said, "To tell you the truth, I really don't want to kill you. But I'm afraid of letting a tiger return to the mountain. Raising a tiger that will bring calamity. Tell me, what should I do?" That's right. Look around. Although we haven't reached the top of the mountain, but this place can be considered as halfway up the mountain, right? It's also a good place to kill people and rob them, as well as destroy their corpses." Tai Long's pupil shrunk as he quickly promised, "You can rest assured. I'll never have any thoughts of revenge again. Look at me. Do you think I'll dare to have any thoughts of revenge in the future? As long as you let me go, I'll immediately give you all the fixed assets under my name. Then I'll leave Star City and never come back for the rest of my life." Tan Xiu was silent for a moment. He slowly shook his head and said, "You have money. In this era, money makes the world go round. Just like those 4 greedy guys. In case you want to spend money to hire assassins to retaliate, I don't want to be watched all the time. I'll give you all my money." Tai Long shouted loudly. A smile appeared on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth as he coldly said, "If that's the case, then I won't be polite. Do you know Zheng Yulong?" Tai Long hurriedly nodded and said, "I do. He's the general manager of the Long Group. The project I've handled was in cooperation with the Long Group." Tan Xiu lightly said, "After you go back, transfer all the assets under your name to Zheng Yulong. That guy will give it to me in cash." "You know Chief Long? What's your relationship with him?" Tai Long hurriedly asked. A moment ago, the thought of revenge did appear in his mind. Moreover, it was very crazy. But when he heard Tan Xiu mention Zheng Yulong, it was as if a basin of cold water was poured on his head. It made his revenge mentality instantly recede by half. Tan Xiu lightly said, "We're barely friends." Tai Long was perfectly aware of the Long Group's background. He also knew how powerful the Long family was. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, apart from deep regret, he couldn't find any other emotion in his heart. If he had known that Tan Xiu was Zheng Yulong's friend, even if he had 10 times more courage, he wouldn't have dared to smash Tan Xiu's family's restaurant and injure Tan Xiu's mother and men. Karma. An eye for an eye. Tai Long's heart turned gloomy. After thoroughly dispelling the thought of retaliating against Tan Xiao, he thought about how he had fallen to such an end. If he were to stay in Star City later, those people he had offended would probably retaliate against him crazily. After being silent for a moment, he bitterly said, "I'll give all my assets to Chief Long. Even if I want to keep it for myself, I'm afraid he'll be able to find it. Besides, I've already become a cripple. After I go back, I'll immediately ask my wife to take me away." Sweat. After Quiet Night's update slowed down, the book review and comment section was full of curses. Quiet Night is a human, not a writing machine. Also, I don't know what kind of mentality those people have when they say that the return from the immortal world is not good. Everyone has their own preferences. Quiet Night is not RMB. I can't guarantee that everyone will like me. As long as there are brothers and sisters who like Quiet Night and the stories told by him, it's fine. Those who don't like it can just close it. Why must they curse me so badly? Asking for monthly tickets for consolation. Chapter 130. Tan Xiao didn't have the slightest pity for Tai Long. He casually hummed and directly knocked him out. Then he came to Fei Chong's side and lightly said, "You are responsible for sending that guy back. If he implicates you and you hate him in your heart, you can kill him halfway. Remember today's matter. I'll personally visit your Rising Dragon Martial School next month when I have time." "Don't." Fei Chong's face revealed a frightened expression as he begged, "Brother, please don't go to our martial school. We took a private job without the schoolmaster's knowledge. He's an upright and plain-spoken senior, and he's extremely strict with us. If he knows that we took a private job outside and did some shady business, he'll definitely kill us. I beg you. We assure you that we'll never take a private job again. We'll never do anything that's against reason and nature again." Tan Xiao indifferently said, "If you knew it would be like this, why did you do it in the first place? However, it's good to know one's mistake and correct it. I hope you'll behave yourself in the future." After saying that, Tan Xiao didn't stay any longer and directly walked down the mountain. After dealing with Tai Long's matter, Tan Xiao didn't immediately go to the hospital, but returned to Southgate Town. After finding the missed calls and messages, Tan Xiao stood in the bedroom on the second floor of the villa and dialed the number of his teacher in charge, Han Qinggu. "Tan Xiao, where have you been? Are you still a student or not? Do you still want to go back to school?" The phone had just been connected when Han Qingwu's angry roar came from the phone. Tan Xiao removed the phone. After hearing Han Qingwu's roar, he lightly smiled and said, "Miss Han, I also want to go back to school. But something happened at home after I returned to Star City. So, I'm afraid I'll have to wait for 2 days before I can go back to school." "Something happened at home? What happened?" Han Qingwu's anger subsided a lot, and her tone carried a lot of concern. "My mom's restaurant was smashed by someone," said Tang Xiao. "My mom and a few of the waiters in the restaurant were also injured. My mother is still in the hospital." Han Qingwu said angrily, "Who did this? Which hospital is your mother in? Which ward is he in?" "Oh, I'll rush over after my next class." Tan Xiao said, "Miss Han, this matter has been solved. I only need to ask for 2 more days of leave before I can go back to school. There was no need for Miss Han to come over personally. In addition, there's something I want to discuss with you." "What is it?" Han Qingwu also realized that she was too impatient, so when she saw Tan Xiao change the topic, she immediately asked. Tan Xiao said, "I promised you on Chuling, Cheng Yannan, and the others that I'll help them review every night so that their grades will improve. So, can you make an exception and let them come to my house instead of going to school every night?" "I'll tutor them myself," Han Qingwu said angrily. "You want to skip class, right? If it's a mutual help between classmates, can't you help them review at school?" Tan Xiao said, "My review method is very special and needs a quiet environment. I assure you that if you agree, their grades will definitely improve when the college entrance test comes." Han Qingwu was silent for a moment and then sighed. "Tan Xiao, I don't know why you don't like to come to school, but the college entrance test is coming soon. Can't you even persist for less than a month? Tan Xiao said helplessly. Miss Han, I really want to give them remedial lessons. You've seen my results. If I wanted to, I could get those results every single time, or even better than that. I have my own learning method. Although there's not much time left before the college entrance test, I'm confident that I can find the key points and improve their learning level. If you don't believe me, then I'll return to school in 2 days and I promise I won't mention this matter again. At the other end of the phone, Han Qingwu was silent. She didn't know whether what Tan Xiao said was true or not, but the last sentence about trust from Tan Xiao made her feel awkward. She believed in Tan Xiao. Ever since Tan Xiao amazed the world with a brilliant feat, she firmly chose to believe in Tan Xiao. The silence lasted for a long time. After 2 minutes, Han Qingwu faintly sighed and said, Since you're so sure, then I choose to trust you again. I hope you won't let me down. After saying that, she directly hung up the phone. Tan Xiao secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Every time he talked with Han Qingwu, he felt that it was more tiring than fighting. In his heart, his feelings toward Han Qingwu were very complicated. After all, Han Qingwu was like his immortal companion in the immortal world. But that immortal companion betrayed him. He was rational, so he naturally couldn't hate her. But he didn't have any feelings between a man and a woman. Tan Xiao shook his head to get rid of the complicated feelings from his mind. Then he pulled out 2 unfamiliar numbers and dialed one of them. Not long after, Ouyang Lulu's voice came from the other side. Are you Tan Xiao? Tan Xiao rolled his eyes and snappily said, If not me, who else do you think it is? You missed my call. Don't tell me you don't know my number? Ouyang Lulu angrily said. Who said I don't know your number? Tan Xiao, you bastard. You freeload food, drink, and stay in my house, but you just patted your ass and ran away. You didn't even say a word to me. Do you still think of me as your friend? Who's your friend? Tan Xiao almost blurted out these words. However, after thinking about it, he felt that what Ouyang Lulu said was also reasonable. He brought Mu Qingping and her daughter to Ouyang Lulu's house to eat and stay for free, so he should say a word to her before leaving. However, who told her to sleep like a dead pig and not get up at noon? He let out a wry smile. Tan Xiao said, Don't tell me you called me for this reason? If there's nothing else, then I'll hang up first. I still have a lot of missed calls and unread messages to deal with. Ouyang Lulu quickly shouted. Who said I don't have anything else? I still have a lot of things to do. I'm going to Star City soon. You're a Star City resident, so shouldn't you do your duty as a host? You're coming to Star City? Tan Xiao was surprised and said, You're not staying in Jingmen Island to manage your Paradise Club. What are you doing in Star City? Ouyang Lulu proudly said, Recently, 2 friends asked me to invest in a business in your Star City, so I'm going to have a look and have a good chat with them. Tan Xiao said, Call me when you come. After saying that, he directly hung up the phone. Toward Ouyang Lulu, Tan Xiao had never given her a good temper. This woman had an eccentric temperament. Sometimes she spoke very impulsively, and other times, she was exceptionally gentle. He couldn't understand which was her character. Tan Xiao scrolled to the last number and dialed it. After a while, a cold voice came from the phone. Tan Xiao? Tan Xiao frowned. He felt that the voice was somewhat familiar, but he couldn't remember who it was. After a moment of silence, he said, It's me. When do you have time? I hope you can come to the Everlasting Feast Hall again. The cold voice came from the phone again. The Everlasting Feast Hall? Gu Xiaoshua's face appeared in Tan Xiao's mind. He immediately shook his head and said, I don't have time recently. I've left Jingmen Island. Where are you? I want to talk to you. Talk about what? Let's talk when we meet. Tan Xiao said, I'm in Star City now. If you want to talk, come to Star City. Also, I hope that you won't hide anything from me in the future. I don't have any intention toward you, but I have some doubts about the 1000 Revolution Array. There's no harm in telling you now. In fact, the 1000 Revolution Array was created by me. I've only taught it to one person in my whole life, and that person is my disciple. I'm very curious as to why the 1000 Revolution Array appeared in your Everlasting Feast Hall. What did you say? Gu Xiaoxue's shocked exclamation came from the phone. Tan Xiao said, "You didn't hear it wrong. The 1000 Revolution Array was indeed created by me. Not only did I create the 1000 Revolution Array, but also the Feng Shui Great Array of your everlasting feast hall, the Water Block Dragon Lock Array. Think about it clearly. If you tell me the whole story, I'll wait for you in Star City. If you can't tell me the truth, then you don't need to come." "It's you." Gu Xiaoxue acted as though she didn't hear Tan Xiao's words. Her voice rose a few octaves as she shouted loudly. Tan Xiao knitted his brows and said, "What, me?" Gu Xiaoxue hurriedly said, "The person my master has been looking for is you. Although I don't know why you appeared decades later, it's absolutely not a mistake. Tan Xiao, wait for me in Star City. I'll leave immediately." Toot toot. Listening to the busy tone coming from the phone, Tan Xiao felt a bit strange inside. Gu Xiaoxue said that her master was looking for him. What did she mean? Who was her master? What kind of relationship did he have with his disciple? Tan Xiao suddenly looked forward to Gu Xiaoxue's arrival. The mystery in his heart might be solved when Gu Xiaoxue came. After a long time, Tan Xiao put away these thoughts and called Long Zhengyu to tell him about Tai Long's matter. With Long Zhengyu's help, Tan Xiao wasn't afraid that Tai Long would dare to play dirty tricks. Although he didn't know much about the Long family, but for them to be respected by so many people, they must have a very deep background. Knock knock. The door was knocked as Gu Yin quickly ran into the room with a smile on her face. Tan Xiao turned around and looked at Gu Yin with a smile. "How's your cultivation these days? Has your perception of qi become stronger?" Gu Yin pulled Tan Xiao's hand and said with a playful smile, "Master, not only Yin's perception of qi has become stronger, but I can also control the airflow. I've been controlling the flow of qi in my meridians according to the cultivation technique you gave me. Although the speed is very slow, I can now circulate it several times a day." So fast. Tan Xiao was shocked. Although he knew that Gu Yin's dual meridian ice phoenix holy body was a 1 in a billion cultivation holy body, but he didn't expect it to be so heaven-defying. Just a few days? She can control the flow of qi in her meridians? No wonder. No wonder the woman with the dual meridian ice phoenix holy body was able to take the step that millions of immortals were unable to take and ascend to the God realm. Chapter 131. Tan Xiao couldn't practice his previous cultivation technique, and could only practice the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, but Gu Yin could practice the cultivation techniques of the immortal world. He also had a deep understanding of cultivation, so it was normal for him to give Gu Yin pointers. But this disciple of his was too abnormal. If she could maintain this heaven-defying cultivation speed, perhaps she would soon surpass him and become stronger than him. Right? Tan Xiao forced a smile and shook his head. Suddenly his complexion changed. A matter that made him speechless emerged in his mind. Cultivation resources. His current cultivation resources were something that he had only managed to gather with great difficulty. His precious disciple's cultivation talent was so heaven-defying that he couldn't afford to waste any time. But her cultivation speed was so fast, and the cultivation resources she needed were also staggering. Tan Xiao looked at the bright smile on his precious disciple's face, but he secretly complained inside. However, he couldn't afford to lose the child to trap the wolf. He steeled his heart, and decided that he must go all out to accumulate wealth and plunder cultivation resources on Earth in the future. Once he became stronger, even if he had to go to the planets in outer space to find cultivation materials, he would try his best to meet the needs of his master and disciple. "You seem unhappy, master?" Gu Yin looked at Tan Xiao with a worried expression. She didn't know how she had made her master unhappy. Tan Xiao stared blankly for a moment before he immediately suppressed the helplessness in his heart. A doting smile appeared on his face as he stroked her soft hair and chuckled. "Master isn't unhappy. It's just that I'm thinking about something else. I'm very happy that my disciple's cultivation speed is so fast, so how can I be unhappy? But don't forget what I told you. Haste makes waste. You've just stepped on the path of cultivation, So you must steadily cultivate and improve your cultivation bit by bit. Guyin nodded obediently and smilingly said, I'll remember what you said, master. My mother once said that a 10,000 feet tall building must be built from the ground, and the foundation is the most important. That's right. Tanxio nodded with satisfaction. Suddenly his expression moved and he asked, Inin, your body is fine now. Do you want to go to school? Originally, I planned to let your mother train you and take you to Nine Dragons Island. But she only had 2 months to study. Plus other things, she might have to wait until September. I'm going to let you study for half a year, and then go to Nine Dragons Island after the new year. What do you think? Guyin hesitated for a moment before she shook her head and said, I haven't been to school for more than 2 years, master. I can't keep up with many courses. Can you let me join the training class? My mom bought me a lot of textbooks a few days ago. I'm going to make up for the lessons I miss without affecting my cultivation. Tanxio was startled for a moment before realization dawned on him. He said with a smile, How about this? Since you've fallen behind a lot in your classes, I'll go to your tutor tomorrow and ask them to make up for your missed classes during the summer break. If you can catch up with your classmates before September, I'll send you to school for half a year. If you can't make it up to me, then forget it. Yes. Guyin nodded in delight. Tanxio smiled and said, Go and play. I have something to do today, so I'll go out soon. Guyin was confused and asked, Where are you going, master? Can Inin go out and play with you? My mom went to the mall to buy some things, and it'll be a long time before she comes back. I have something important to do, so you stay at home, Inin, said Tanxio. I'll go out and play with you after the college entrance test. You'll definitely be admitted to a very good university, master, said Guyin with a smile. University? Tanxio smiled indifferently. He had already made up his mind. Even if he had to enter a university, he would only be admitted to Blue City University. Blue City University was the best university in Shuangqing Province, an undergraduate university. Once he was admitted to Blue City University, it would be much closer to home, so he could often come back to visit his mother. Of course, if his mother was willing to leave with him to live in other big cities, he could also choose to enter a key university in another province. Going to university was meaningless to him, but it was his mother's wish, so he must not disappoint it. After leaving South Gate Town, Tanxio searched for several good advanced cram schools through the internet. The content of the courses were from the 1st to the 6th grade. In order to cultivate Guyin, he decided to spend a lot of money. Therefore, he must hire a tutor for the 3 important subjects, English, mathematics, and physics. In an office building near Star Cities by the Square, Tanxio found the New Idea training course marked on the internet. The environment inside was good, and the entire floor was occupied by the New Idea training course. The interior decoration also appeared to be upscale. Welcome. After entering the door, the receptionist lady greeted him with a cordial smile. Tanxio looked around and asked, Show me the program list of your cram school. Please wait a moment. The receptionist lady nodded with a smile, and quickly took out a stack of documents from the drawer. She handed it over to Tanxio and said, Sir, do you want to send your child to our cram school? We have a strong teaching staff here, and our education level can be considered as the top among all the schools in Star City. Almost all of the teachers have passed the teaching qualification certificate, and they are willing to give up the formal establishment to work here. Tanxio opened the program list. After looking at it, he found that the price of the tutoring here was very expensive. The grade was also very clear. The more excellent the teacher was, the more the course content was, and the more expensive the price was. Even in the end, Tanxio also found that the teachers here could also visit him as a tutor, and the price was even more expensive. I need to find a tutor for the 3 subjects, English, mathematics, and physics from the 2nd grade to the 6th grade. If possible, I'd like to start teaching the 2nd grade from tomorrow onwards. As for how to teach them, it's up to the teachers here. The receptionist lady's eyes lit up. She was a bit more enthusiastic about this big client as she said with a smile, Sir, you really came to the right place to come to our New Idea training course. You can choose the most expensive package we have here, and our teaching staff will certainly. Tanxiu waved his hand to interrupt her and said with a deep voice, even the most expensive package you have here is far from enough. My apprentice doesn't study at school and stays at home all day, so he has plenty of time. I hope that you don't calculate it according to the class hours, but according to the whole day. It's best to give him 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, and 3 hours in the evening. It was the first time for the receptionist lady to meet a guest like Tanxiu, especially when she heard Tanxiu address him as apprentice. It was really unexpected. She hesitated for a moment and then said in a low voice, I'll have to trouble you to wait a bit. I'll contact my boss. She can make the decision according to your request. All right. Tanxiu replied. He took the stack of documents and walked to the sofa in the corner of the hall and sat down. A few minutes later, a middle-aged woman in professional attire and glasses came out from the inside. After talking with the receptionist lady for a while, she came to Tanxiu and said with a smile, May I know your surname, sir? Tang. Tanxiu got up and said, I'm Li Liping. You can call me Big Sister Li, said the middle-aged woman with a smile. Our receptionist lady has just told me about your request. Such a request has never appeared in our place. What I want to ask is, are you sure that your child can keep up with our teacher's speedy course? I believe she can do it, said Tanxiu. Since sir can be sure, then I'm relieved, said Li Liping with a smile. Our customer is our God, and we'll try our best to meet our customer's requirements. How about this? I'll arrange 3 excellent teachers to tutor your child in English for 3 hours every morning, math in the afternoon, and Chinese in the evening. We'll discuss and decide the schedule. All right. Tanxiu nodded happily. Li Liping spoke again. What you mean is that after all the second-grade courses are finished, if your child can keep up with the course speed, he can immediately start the third-grade courses. After the third-grade courses are finished, he can start the 4th, 5th, and 6th-grade courses. Is that right? That's right, Tanxiu said again. What about the time? Asked Li Liping with a smile. How fast are you going to let our excellent teachers teach after he has finished 5 years of courses for ordinary students? I want it to start from tomorrow until September 1st, said Tanxiu. What? Li Liping was dumbfounded. She looked at Tanxiu with an incredulous expression and exclaimed, You mean from tomorrow to September 1st, in just 3 to 4 months, your child will be able to finish all the courses from the 2nd grade to the 6th grade, including English and math? Yes. Tanxiu nodded calmly. A bit of disappointment appeared on Li Liping's face. She snappily said, Sir, we're an educational institution, not a place for you to joke around. If you sincerely want to hire our teachers here, I'll warmly welcome you and try my best to meet your requirements. But if you're here to joke around, then I hope you can end it here. The door is over there, and I won't see you out. Ugh. Tanxiu was dumbfounded by Li Liping's words. Wasn't it obvious that he sincerely wanted to hire a teacher? How did it suddenly turn into a joke? Did I not explain it clearly enough? Or did the boss of this new idea misunderstand me? Tanxiu thought for a moment and seriously said, I'm not joking around. I'm serious about every word I said. My child may be a bit special, but special children need special treatment. You're the boss here, so you should have met a lot of gifted and intelligent children, so I hope you can do as I say. As for the price, we can discuss it. Li Liping looked at Tanxiu with a strange expression. She shook her head and said, I've indeed seen a lot of gifted and intelligent children, but I've never heard of anyone who can finish learning the courses that ordinary children need 5 years to learn in just 3 to 4 months. Sir, teaching needs to be done step by step and progressively. Your way of thinking is a bit like pulling up seedlings to help them grow. You see, isn't it? Chapter 132. Tanxiu said in a deep tone. You just said that the customer is God. This is what I mean, and I hope you can do as I say. If my apprentice really can't keep up with the speed teaching course, then we'll draw up a new teaching plan. I told you that the price is negotiable. Li Liping hesitated. She could feel the seriousness in Tanxiu's attitude. but she couldn't figure out why this young man before her was so confident. No. What did he just say? Apprentice? Could it be that the child she wants to hire is this young man's apprentice? What a weirdo. Li Liping cursed a few times in her heart before she nodded and said, I understand what you mean. Please wait for a moment. I'll immediately discuss your request with the teachers here. After we draw up the teaching plan, I'll show it to you. Tan Xiu said in a deep tone. I want the best teachers here. If anyone tries to make up the numbers, be careful or you'll ruin the reputation of your new idea training class. You. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's words, Li Liping almost thought that Tan Xiu came to deliberately cause trouble. She secretly took a deep breath and said with all seriousness, You can rest assured that all the teachers here are excellent, and the one I choose for you will also be the best. After saying that, she turned around and walked inside. Tan Xiu's eyes retracted from her back and looked at the receptionist lady serving hot tea. Tan Xiu nodded and took out his mobile phone to dial Kong Xia's number. What's your instruction, boss? Kong Xia's voice came from the phone. Moreover, there were a lot of noises coming from the inside. Apparently, Kong Xia was in a very noisy place. I need to talk to you about something. Where are you? Tan Xiu said. I'm at the talent market, boss. Kong Xia said. We're establishing a company and need to recruit a lot of employees. I only brought 3 people from the capital, which is far from enough. Tell me the address and I'll come to you now. Tan Xiu hesitated for a moment and then said, All right. I'm going to deal with some trivial matters now. I'll come to you after I'm done with it. I'll also see what the job fair looks like. That's right, send me the address later. Okay. Kong Xia replied with a smile. Half an hour later, Li Liping came to Tan Xiu with the 3 middle-aged men and women. Then, she handed Tan Xiu a copy of their teaching plan and said, This is the teaching plan we've formulated according to your requirements. Please take a look first. What I need to say in advance is that your requirements are very tight, and you have too little time. The number of lessons you teach every day is very large, so I hope you are mentally prepared. After looking through it, Tan Xiu nodded and said, I'm not very good at teaching, so you can do as you see fit. That's it for now. I'll make some adjustments based on the situation. How much is it? I'll pay you now. This, Li Liping hesitated. After all, this was the first time she had encountered such a strange client. Moreover, the requirements were much more than their ordinary lectures, and the time was also very different. For a moment, she really didn't know how to quote a price. Tan Xiu was puzzled. What? Didn't you guys discuss the amount of money just now? And you seem to be the boss here, right? Even you can't decide the price? Li Liping forced a smile and said, Mr. Tang, your requirements are too unconventional. I don't know how much I should charge you for the time being. How about this? Let's go to class tomorrow first. We'll talk about the fee after tomorrow's class is over. All right, Tan Xiu said. You decide on this. Li Liping quickly said. But can you pay a part of the deposit first? We'll quote the price after tomorrow's class is over. If you're satisfied, we'll sign a contract. If you're not satisfied, then we'll give you tomorrow's class for free. Furthermore, we will also return the deposit we received to you. How much do you want? Tan Xiu asked. Li Liping was silent for a moment and then said, 5,000 yuan. What do you think? Tan Xiu nodded. He took out his wallet and was about to take out his bank card to swipe it. Suddenly, he found that he should have enough cash, so he took out all of it. After counting it, it was exactly 5,000 yuan. Here you go. Li Liping took the 5,000 yuan cash. She was watching when Tan Xiu was counting the money, so she didn't count it in front of Tan Xiu. Instead, she said with a smile, Mr. Tang, please wait a moment. I'll ask someone from the finance department to give you a receipt. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, No need to give me a receipt. Also, we don't need to sign any contract. I don't think it's necessary. You're an educator, while I'm doing this for my child. We should maintain the most basic trust between us. Just tell me the price tomorrow, and I'll directly transfer the money to you. Later, you can send a teacher to my place to teach every day. What's your address? Li Liping asked. Tan Xiu said. It's not far from here. It's the last building number in Southgate Town. I still have things to do, so I won't bother you anymore. Goodbye. Southgate Town? The last building number? Li Liping's pupils shrunk as she looked at Tan Xiao's back as he left. Her heartbeat suddenly sped up. She had been to Southgate Town before because her family had a rich relative who lived there. She knew that it was the most luxurious villa complex in the entire Star City. Even when she was a guest at her relative's house, she had heard her relative talk about something. The best view building in the entire villa complex was the King Villa, which was the last building number. Mr. Tang, I'll send you off. Li Liping's complexion changed a few times as she strode to catch up. At the same place, the three middle-aged teachers looked at each other in dismay. Tan Xiao politely refused, but Li Liping was too enthusiastic. She insisted on sending Tan Xiao to the entrance on the first floor of the office building. Then she said with a smile, "Take care, Mr. Tang." Tan Xiao nodded. Under Li Liping's watchful gaze, he walked to the roadside and stopped a taxi, quickly disappearing at the end of the street in the distance. Weirdo. What a weirdo. He can live in the most luxurious villa in Southgate Town, yet he doesn't even have a car. He even needs to take a taxi to go out. Li Liping shook her head as she secretly cursed inside. Star City Talent Market. In the spacious market hall, hundreds of stalls were crowded with people. Since this job fair was a large-scale job fair hosted by the major enterprises in the Shuangqing province to the whole country, and the venue was set up in Star City, nearly 100,000 college graduates, unemployed employees, and other talents from all walks of life had gathered here. Coincidentally, the magnificent Tang Corporation was preparing to set up a company, and happened to encounter this large-scale job fair. Therefore, Kong Xia found a good location for a stall, and even personally came to oversee it. When Tan Xiao arrived at the Star City Talent Market, he was immediately shocked by the scene in front of him. Although it was already in the afternoon, it was still overcrowded. Nowadays, the most worthless people are college students. Tan Xiao suddenly recalled the words that Yuan Jinren had once complained in his ear. He immediately nodded in agreement. Many students had studied hard for more than 10 years, but in the end, they still had to go from house to house to apply for jobs. Perhaps in the past, studying was the only way out. But now, even if one had a high diploma, everything would be in vain if one didn't have the ability. According to the exact location given by Kong Xia, Tan Xiao found the stall belonging to the magnificent Tang Corporation. In the stall of more than 10 square meters, Kong Xia and another cute and petite blonde girl were sitting on the inside of the podium, interviewing a young man who looked like a student. There were also two foreign men who were sorting out the information inside. There was also a long line behind the interviewee. Tan Xiao glanced at it, and found that the line was at least 20 meters long. Boss. Upon seeing Tan Xiao's arrival, Kong Xia immediately got up and called out, "Boss." The golden-haired lowly also stood up and shouted. There was a curious look in her eyes as she looked at Tan Xiao over and over again. Tan Xiao nodded to the two, waved his hand and said, "Kong Xia, give the job to someone else first. I have something to tell you." Understood. Kong Xia exhorted Andy at her side, and let the blonde youth behind her take over her work. Then, she called Tan Xiao to the stall. "Boss, what do you want me to tell you?" Tan Xiao said, "I'll leave two things to you. First, Long Zhengyu will transfer me a sum of money, which I got. I don't know the specific amount, but I'll immediately transfer it to you when the money arrives. Second, Long Zhengyu and his two friends from the capital are going to implement a big project in Star City. They said that the total investment is estimated to be 5 billion yuan. And if they encounter a funding problem later, it will be increased. They want me to draw the building design for them and promise to give me 10% of the shares. After I give them the design, you'll follow up on the follow-up issues of this matter. 10%. Kong Xia looked at Tan Xiao with an incredulous expression. She was shocked by the news. A design could get 10% of the shares? Moreover, the investment funds were already 5 billion yuan. It was hard for her to imagine what kind of design was worth such a high price. Boss, are you sure it's shares? Not profit dividends? Kang Xia quickly asked. With a puzzled expression, Tan Xiu asked, "What's the difference between shares and profit dividends?" Kang Xia was secretly speechless. Only now did she realize that this boss of hers really knew nothing about doing business. After organizing the words in her mind, she explained, "The building that is about to be built, if you don't sell it and keep it as your property, then you'll own 10% of the wealth of this building. Later, if you sell the building, you'll get 10% of the total sale price. If you directly sell it after it's built, then the investment funds will be deducted. 10% of the project's profit will be the dividend. I think you should ask about this matter first, and then I'll know how to contact them." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.